It is 6:48. Can we go back to the meeting, our video division?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting of November 17th, 2020. Madam City Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Chow. Councilmember Sinks.
Yes.
Councilmember Willie.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Paul.
Here.
Mayor Scharf.
Here. Great. So Madam City Clerk, there's no ceremonial matters or presentations today that I see. Do we have any postponements?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one postponement. Item number 16, City of Cupertino 2020 Transportation Impact Fee Nexus Study Update, increasing the transportation impact fees and amending Schedule B of the 2021 fee schedule to incorporate the increased fees has been continued to December 1st.
Okay, very good. And, you know, with the consent of the rest of the council members, I would like to move item 15 back to right after the consent calendar. So item, hold on. Where does consent end here? I don't see the end of consent. So Madam City Clerk, I don't see where consent ends on my agenda here. Which item is the end of consent?
At 15, it's items 3 through 15.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let's move item.
You mean item number 20?
Yeah, move item number 20 in front of, well, what was going to be 16. So before item 17 now. So can I get I'll make a motion that we move item 20 back before item 16 or 17.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, great. All in favor? Oh, can you have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Chow? Councilmember Sinks?
Yes.
Councilmember Willie?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul?
Aye.
Mayor Scharf?
Aye.
The motion carried. I'm sorry, Councilmember Chow, did you say aye?
Yeah.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, now we are on to oral communications. This is for persons wishing to address the council on any matter which is not on the agenda. And you'll get 3 minutes, and we can't have any discussion of items that aren't on the agenda. However, we can have the staff do a short response, and we can consider putting those items on a future agenda if 2 council members or the mayor decide to do so. So I see 5 hands raised now. We'll go in order. First is Muni Matapatla. Welcome, Muni.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the cell tower that's being installed too close to my house, and it's close to a lot of residences. Can you go to the next slide? So my request here is to move it from the current proposed location to alternate locations that's somewhat closer and doesn't affect residents. You go to the next slide. So I received a notification from Verizon that was postmarked, November 3rd, and I contacted Jacob Olander on November 12th and received a response, which is a pretty standard cookie cutter response. The location that they are trying to install is within 80 feet of 4 residences, and there are about 49 residences within 500 feet radius. Too many concerns, right? All the available information is from industry backers. There are no independent studies. unlike commercial locations, the residents will be constantly subject to radio frequency exposure 24/7. There's a Berkeley professor that wrote in an opinion piece on Scientific American saying, this is no safe. I would highly encourage, council to read that. And I also learned, Verizon and AT&T is operating at a very, very high frequency range in the spectrum that makes it very difficult for us to monitor EMF. And moreover, why do residents need high-speed cell connection when they have high-speed connection at home? You go to the next slide. So this is the proposed location. And as you can see, the house that's visible on that corner is my home. And if you flatten the pole, I'm sure this pole will touch my house. Can you go to the next slide? So as you can see in the red dot surrounding that, within about 80 feet, there are about 4 homes. Can you go to the next slide? And I drew a 500 feet circle around that location, and I counted the number of homes in that red circle. There are about 49 homes. And can you go to the next slide? If you move it from that location to Pacifica and De Anza Junction, which is just on that side of De Anza, and the green circle, you'll see most of the locations are commercial. There is barely one house on the southeast corner and one house on the southwest corner that is touched. Otherwise, everything is commercial. And people in commercial locations are not constantly exposed. They just move in and out, whereas residents are constantly exposed. Can you go to the next slide? So I went around, collected signatures, and I created a petition, and I will submit the physical copy if needed. I collected these signatures, and there are more residents that would sign, but unfortunately, COVID-19, I couldn't get all of them. So can you go to the next slide? That's pretty much it. So I hope, city does something about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Venkat Raghunathan. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah. Hi, this is Venkat Raghunathan. I'm here to talk about the Verizon 5G installations. I am a resident here for 10 years and more than 25 years in the Bay Area. I received this notice 2+ weeks ago and also presented in the last city council about our concerns along with our neighbors. We have had a lot of communication with the Verizon representative and also with the city, and we have relayed our concerns. There are a lot of residents who have come together and shared our concerns and are communicating with the city and also the contractor regarding this. There is a lot of information I provided in my previous emails, but specific to the site on Denison and Amherst, which is just 25 feet away from my house where the pole is selected, there is a 1,000-watt max power for this with a 4G antenna with PCS support and 2 5G antennas, which is 5 times more than just 5G only towers. So you can see that, based on their own RF report, it is 100 times more radioactive exposure than 5G only towers, which themselves are considered not safe. The provided mitigation by in their own RF report is extending to 18 feet for personnel working they expect them to have RF protection, and we have this extends into our lawn with a tree right there, which kids use every day and then they play around in the trees, etc. So this is perilously close to our lawn. And this is also very close to our master bedroom, just like 25 feet from the master bedroom. Through the window, you can have a look at it. I have sent the picture of the street pole along with the tree and the house window to the city council, along also to Jacob Olander, the Verizon representative. There are other. I also mentioned that there is a perimeter drive which is going around circumscribing the Valco Parkway. There is a street that has a lot of light poles, and one of them, which is hardly 200 feet from this current location, can be used which will support the expansion of 5G as well as have sufficient setback from residences and schools. I urge the city along with my neighbors and the carrier to consider these points and find an alternate location for this site. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me? Wait, I think the
Yeah, we can.
okay, great, thank you. Members of the City Council and fellow Cupertino residents, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll try not to repeat what Mooney and Venkat has already said. My name is Peter Chu. I'm an 18-year resident here right next to Creekside Park. At the beginning, 2 weeks ago, I received the postal mail notice from Verizon, similar 5G antenna, and funny that it's also under 25 feet from my master bedroom on the second floor. So this lamp post is, extremely close. And by the way, any of you want to see what this antenna actually looks like? One went up today at the Starbucks at De Anza and Stevens Creek. It just looks a lot bigger than what we see in pictures. And I must ask our city leadership to perhaps consider suspending the approval of additional 5G sites and review the guidelines that were, I'm glad we had them as of August 2020 from the city. We're at the beginning of this 5G build out, and I'm fully in support of it because I actually worked on a lot of it before. But we have to proceed with much more updated standards when compared to our other cities in California. 5G is new, so cities are starting to react, and they're leading the way are cities such as Los Altos, Palo Alto, Berkeley. These are well cited. Palos Verdes, Mill Valley, to name a few. They're all pretty desirable areas to live in California, as you can see. I like to think that we are living in a place as nice as those that are mentioned, but their 5G guidelines are 10 times more stringent when it comes to the distance from residential structures. These are the only ones that guidelines out there, and there are 10 times more than us. More require, and also they all require 500 feet or more compared to Cupertino's 20 feet. Berkeley leads the way with 1,500 feet or 75 times more protective than Cupertino. In addition to minimum distance, these cities are more restrictive about the distance between cell sites. This is important because whatever the potential negative impacts of visual obstruction, overlapping RF waves, these are multiplied. So on this point, Cupertino has guidelines that allow cell sites to be 500 feet apart if they're from the same carrier. The problem here is twofold. First, the other cities are requiring 1,500 feet of separation, and they don't distinguish, across carriers. It means multiple carriers have to respect that as well. I'm asking for our leaders to really consider pausing the additional approval because we need to review our standards, which seem to be extremely low compared to our comparable cities in California. But more importantly, my initial experience with Verizon is that they're already abusing the quite lenient standards. In my case, the planned cell site is 500 feet away from an approved existing cell site for the new technology. This is while the city is, we're still largely unpopulated. And pushing the guideline at this point in time, looking for exemptions, is kind of a warning sign for me. Additionally, this is a double negative where the proposed site is also hitting the limit of residential allowance of 20 feet away from residents. So I think they're really pushing the limits here. And I've asked them to consider alternative sites since I live literally few feet away from a 2,500 square feet of non-residential zoning around Creekside Park and the surrounding areas. They're very reluctant to do so. So, it shows that Verizon has very little regard for the statement in the opening paragraph of our guideline that says carrier will use street light poles that are the most distant from occupied structures. No, adherence to that. Verizon is taking advantage of our very lenient guidelines, and I fear this will set precedents to invite future behavior, perhaps abusive, from multiple carriers as they compete for many more cell sites. That could be in the hundreds. Let me wrap up by saying I urge the city leaders to put a stop to the approval of additional sites and give us a chance to sort of do further research in comparables, review the guidelines of cities around us. The standards are evolving fast, and there is collective wisdom in what many cities are doing. We should be among the best in building up our infrastructure at Cupertino. And also in doing that, building up the infrastructure, but with the long-term interest of our residents in mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, can we
Yes.
ask him to send his information to the city so that maybe he has seen something that we haven't about Berkeley, 1,500 feet, other cities, 500 feet? Let's have that information and at least we can make sure we're not missing it.
Sure,
Yeah,
he can send
that's
it to
fine.
me and I can get it
Yeah.
distributed.
Yeah, so Councilman Wiley and everybody, I'm happy to provide. I just been doing a crash course for the last 14 days trying to learn everything. There's a lot of city guidelines that are, well, a few that are out there that are pushing the limits. Happy to supply everything I have to city manager, council member, and everybody we see here today.
Very good. Next, we have Ram Sripathi. Welcome, Ram. Let's see. Go ahead, Ram.
Okay, it was muted until now. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk. This is also regarding the Verizon installation. A few weeks ago, we got a notice for an installation on the corner of West Acres and McClellan. And this is, again, for a combined 4G, 5G site. And we don't see the need for it in the sense that it's too close. One, it's too close to residences. There is an alternate site by the church on the corner of West Acres and McClellan Stelling, where it's probably less occupied during the day or probably during the entire day. And plus it would not move the tower too far away from where we already are, where we're already thinking of putting it. Just as Peter Chu mentioned and Venkat and Muni, I think the city should put a stop to Verizon's rollout. We're not really suffering from lack of internet coverage. We do have high-speed internet. Almost everybody in the city enjoys it. So by Verizon blanketing the city with 5G and 4G, there is nothing that benefits the citizens except, probably radiating them a lot more or exposing them to a lot more radiation. So I would suggest, or I would request the city to please consider and be at the forefront of all of these standards so that, people are protected. And these are things that have long-term effects, something that not any of us would face, but maybe in 10 years or 15 years, we would face the effects of these radiations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ram. Next, we have Satish Madhaval. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Welcome, Satish.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This is Satish Madhaval, and pretty much I think I have the similar situation here from the Verizon perspective. And just now Ram said about this West Acres and McClellan corner, that is next to my home, just 25 feet from my bedroom, actually. So it's a dense populated area, and we really have concerns. And actually, a lot of parents, a lot of family around us are worried about this as well. And they are collecting the signature, and they wanted to send a petition as well. So if we definitely want to relook into this and see that any other alternative location where it can be moved, because there's a serious concern on this, and it is not just only few of us are talking here, but it's a concern of many families around us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Griffin. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Steve. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin. Now I'm embarrassed because we have Verizon. Anyway, I just wanted to talk for a minute we're going to talk about Bay Area super PACs for a minute. I have been mystified for the last 4 to 5 years about the appearance of these housing bills that have come out of Sacramento. I've been coming to city council meetings for 20 years and 5 years before in the county, and I have never seen anything like this. So I tried to get down to business immediately to try to find out what was happening, because I've never seen anything like this. It's a gross abuse of power. And sorry, my cat's meowing in the back. She agrees with me too. What I'm just going to say is that it seems like the culprit of a lot of these are local Bay Area super PACs. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I won't say anything of who they are. There are probably more of them. A lot of people probably are aware of this, but they are all well heeled. And I will say right now that they basically want money and power. They don't care about affordable housing or homelessness. They funnel money into shady groups who write the housing bills. There is no transparency. These bills are being written by money for money. And that is where, let's name facts, that's where SB 35 came from. That is where SB 50 came from. And you talk about wasting people's time. 4 years, we've had the citizens of California and the Bay Area have had to waste their times protecting their democracy from such a farce as a group of people, individuals in these super PACs who think that they're bright enough to be deciding the future of the state. For people who have lived here for a few years, many years, have relatives here, but I am sorry. This is a complete disregard of any type of democracy in this state. And I will say again, these super PACs ought to be ashamed. They are run by people with PhDs who think that they know better. Well, I am saying right now, I know better. I am a resident of this state, and I am the face of democracy in this state, as is everyone else. And what really, really cuts to the bone is that they funneled money into a group that is deciding that they should take local control from people in their cities and rezone the cities. It's all there. So I am saying right now, I am ashamed for these groups because you would think these people would know better. But this is no democracy I have ever heard of. It is farce and hypocrisy. And yes, it is theater of the absurd, waiting for Godot. And
Okay,
we
thank you,
can't be
Jennifer.
part and parcel. I'm sorry, I've had it. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Hongche Shi. Welcome. Hongche Shi, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Hongchi. Sorry,
Yeah,
is unmute.
go ahead.
I have a situation which is same situation that the Peter Chu mentioned about it. The Verizon sell equipment, radio, and antenna unit that install next to the Howard Court. It look like it's violated the many guideline, which is a lot of the equipment like seller equipment company they provide. I work for Cisco. Work in Cisco for 25 years. Cisco have a guideline that how you install the cell equipment, but it doesn't look like it's right. This cell equipment installed on the port, light port next to the Peter Chu's house. The distance around 25 feet. That's is unbelievable. There's installation like that. I would request the city to deny the proposal of the from the Verizon for installation of the 5G, 4G equipment. That's my, Peter Chu will provide detailed information about other city guideline, and that should be, we should take care from that instead of just blindly accept a proposal.
Okay, thank you. Next is Cindy Wu. Welcome, Cindy. Cindy, go ahead. You're unmuted. Oh, let me unmute you again here. All right.
Am I on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I'm a Cupertino resident. I'm Peter Chu's neighbor. And again, I'm opposed to that Verizon cell site that's going to go up there. I'm here more, and I don't want to go over the same details that Peter went through. I'm more pleading on the health side. My youngest son is autistic, and I'm concerned about the radio frequency emitting from the cell site that might have a detrimental effect on him. knowing autistic kids are more sensitive to sights and sounds and other stimuli than the general public, and I'm very concerned how those RF emissions will affect him. I'm also I have a question more. I'm not sure if anybody can answer it. It mentioned that the lamppost will be 25 feet from a dwelling. I mean, aren't all lampposts next to a dwelling going to be less than 25 feet or
Less. Okay. Are you the?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Next we have Raj Sayana. Welcome, Raj. Go ahead, Raj. We can hear you.
Hi, City Council. This is regarding the Verizon cell site installations. And I think one of the proposed sites is actually close to Bright Horizons, which is a daycare center. So I think we have to be very careful in how we allocate the cell sites. And, I think we have to look at all the other cities that are following strict guidelines and, try to, approve the cell sites only after detailed discussions on that. So I think it'll be a great harm if we, affect our children. It's not going to help in any way. So I urge the City Council to take this matter seriously. Thank you very much.
Okay. And last we have Prashant. Welcome, Prashant.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, City Council. So same concern, and my concern is even going forward in the future. I mean, we're talking about one mobile carrier here, but there are many of them. And if we're taking a stand where city would start allowing one carrier, what stops city from allowing, say, AT&T or T-Mobile or Sprint, or they all are going to compete. They all are going to go to 5G, and they all are going to have their own towers. So how is this going to pan out in the future? I mean, we are talking about one carrier and we are sending letters out, and so many citizens are now concerned, especially in our city. What is a city stand when other carriers will start installing and asking for pole locations for their towers? How is city addressing that? So, if we start moving poles now, based on our concerns, I would say 6 months down the line, AT&T is going to say, I need a tower for my 5G. Sprint is going to say, I need tower for my 5G as well. So I support all my fellow concerned residents here who are raising this concern that we should take a stand as city now, and none of these carriers should be allowed to do this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Deb, can you set something up with our public works regarding this? I mean, we've already had our study session on small cells, and as some of the speakers have pointed out, other carriers will be coming forward, and it is true. I believe we were told we would expect a small cell on every light pole in the city eventually.
Yep, that's probably true. The only thing I can say is that with the current ones that are coming in through Verizon, the city staff is working very closely for them to make sure that they're getting, they're locating things according to the guidelines. So each and every one of these, we're doing that with the carrier behind the scenes. So
okay, and it sounded like the light poles were supposed to be 5G cells, but now I'm hearing from residents that these are combined 4G and 5G. Is that?
yeah, I don't know that.
Okay,
and,
well, this is not on the agenda, so we can't.
So can I
really discuss
request we have a community meeting to explain what the city can or cannot do, because we don't really have authority to even reject these applications. So the August guideline or September study session was the result of John and me pushing for a stronger standard. Finally, we have that, but we didn't have comparison with other cities, so I didn't know.
Well, that's not true, Leon. We have comparisons to other
We
cities.
had, yeah, okay.
We actually
So
pulled standards from those other cities as well.
I was expecting this, and now we have a lot of complaints. I think we need a community meeting to really explain. This comes from FCC. There's nothing much we can do. I'm telling other people, if you really don't want it, remove the light pole. That's the only way, probably. I don't know how you can get the city to say, I don't want the light pole, or I want a really low one.
That won't help either. And yeah, I think another community meeting would be a good idea. And also it would point out the pushback that cities that have adopted very strict standards have gotten in terms of lawsuits. But again, this is not on the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
can we
I'm
set that up as
willing.
soon as possible? I know TIC is planning a workshop with invited speakers. That's a different topic. I think we need a workshop on our existing law, what we can or cannot do, what the residents can or can't do.
Well, the most I can do is as this close to the holidays and all that, the most we can do right now probably is pull together the 2 study sessions so people can view it. We've had 2 or 3 study sessions on small cells alone, and we can make sure that they are also posted so people can view them. The other thing I couldn't do is we did get a flurry of emails about this Verizon piece, and I was unable, I just didn't have the time to respond with the city guidelines and the website and all. I'll figure out how to get more information out there. But it's, I don't know what else to do other than
Right. I think no one paid.
We have a shot clock, right? We have a shot clock. If there is really nothing we can do once the time is up, the application is deemed approved.
Yeah, another good resource would be our city webpage on small cells for residents to look at that, see the resources. I think there's links there for prior study sessions, but that'd be a good place for people.
Yeah, and sign up for the notification, because every time there's a change to that, it will tell them when there's a change to it.
I mean, I think what happened was we had the study sessions, but until people started getting those letters from Verizon, they weren't really paying all that much attention to it because they didn't realize what was coming in terms of the small cells.
I think it's kind of like,
Can you ever not interrupt people?
Right.
Can I propose that on Friday at noon, I'm hoping to have an office hour. Can maybe one of the city staff can attend to help answer questions? And then people can dial in at that time.
That's not a lot of time, Leon. We're swamped. I mean, we'll figure something out if we can discuss it later, please.
Okay.
Yeah, this is oral communications now, not
okay. So
not
I'll
setting
still have the
agendas.
office hour so people can ask questions. Whatever I cannot answer, I guess people can collect the questions for the staff to answer.
Okay.
So I would like to make one comment. I feel it's pretty important because we're getting so many emails from residents. And how do residents feel when they've said something and there's nothing on paper? So I've given the city manager essentially a cell tower review form for resident issues. And it tells who the resident is, when they request, when they put in their concern, the cell tower of interest, and then did we in fact ask the cell provider to consider other locations? And it gives it a number. The residents then can see that their issue has been recorded in the city. And so I really want to push for this. I'll bring it up later at the request for new items, but
Right, that is the
right now
appropriate
is when the
time.
residents are listening, they're here, and they can tell us if they support and want us to do this. So, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that is it for oral communication, so we will close that. We will move on to reports from council and staff. Welcome, Deb, for your city manager update on emergency response efforts.
Okay, so by now, I'm hoping everybody knows that unfortunately, the county has gone back to the purple tier. That's all the way back to the beginning. And as a reminder, this framework that's set out by the state is really organized by business sectors. So I'll point out some of the particulars. As of today, the county was on their own going back to the red tier, but the state overtook them late yesterday afternoon. It's because we've had the highest daily case count total during this entire pandemic on November 10th of 413 cases during this entire time. This is what drove us back to the purple tier. Essentially, what's happening is there's no indoor operations that are okay to operate except for hair and nail salons with, of course, certain social distancing and capacity requirements levied on them. Everyone outdoor is still okay with certain conditions. Again, social distancing or physical distancing, face coverings. Non-essential travel is being highly discouraged. And if someone does travel, a 14-day self-quarantine is being recommended. We're being encouraged to stay in our region. So you feel like this is like back at the beginning of the shelter in place. And we have received no further information on construction or other specific guidance on businesses. Single households or those sheltering in place together should limit interactions with those outside your household. Outdoor activities are fine with those certain conditions as usual. Indoor activities become very risky for people with secondary health conditions, as we all know by now. As it pertains to Cupertino, the case count in Cupertino is now 178 by zip code and 182 by city, basically up 30 since the November 2nd City Council meeting. We do have another testing opportunity tomorrow, Wednesday, November 18th at the Senior Center. The appointments are full, but there's still a few, they will take a few walk-in appointments. It's from 9:30 to 3:45 tomorrow. You do not need to be a senior to get tested. And testing is available for those who are asymptomatic. Those that have symptoms should see their care providers. With regard to parks and recreation, for example, outdoor activities will continue, and but now will be impacted by weather somewhat. We are looking at some more severe weather, not severe, but there's rain and it's super cold. Playgrounds will remain open along with field use. There was a lot of consternation about basketball at the beginning of the shelter in place. So I would say that for basketball, we're back to single household basketball to take advantage of some of our parks. We do have some indoor classes with regards to what Parks and Rec are providing. Those will be moved outdoors or canceled. And as you can imagine, since the new order took effect early this morning, there are some details that we have not fleshed out just yet with regard to city operations. I move on to the election certification. I have gotten a couple of questions from the public. So election certification is planned for December 3rd. And I haven't heard any changes to that. I think that's normal. Inclement weather, there's some discussion with the county that's a little bit ongoing with regard to warming centers. However, the focus right now is on daytime warming centers, which is not where we think the acute need is during super cold times. Homeless encampments. My ongoing coordination meetings have been fruitful in bringing all the parties together. We have a project timeline for this multi-agency effort to ensure coordination. There will be a special session of the City Council on Thursday, which has not been noticed yet. But it will be November 19th to discuss the details with the City Council. The County Office of Supportive Housing and Abode, the housing provider, will be present during that discussion. And I will be providing more details in an email to the Cupertino members of the public who have taken a particular interest in our homeless encampments. And that is it for my report today.
Okay, wonderful. That was short. Okay, now we are on to council committee assignments. Let's go in order of seniority. Rod, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking forward to this being my nearly last report.
One more.
At the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board, we approved a decarbonization plan. Over the course of the next $3 million, we are advancing $6 million. This is money that we have left over out of revenue to help us with decarbonization of buildings. And it addresses the barriers that currently exist in the workforce, people's familiarity to specify and install and repair these systems, and also the strategic actions it's going to take to help us reach those reach codes that we passed, you'll recall, at the beginning of this year. So for all new construction, for retrofits as well, and help with emerging technology so we can quickly identify and help seed the market for those kinds of systems and products that we'll need to meet our greenhouse gas emissions goals as a region. We also have been discussing a super JPA, an organization that would be composed of most of the community choice energy agencies in the state, as a framework, simply as not for governance so much, but as a framework for working on things that are too hard for us to do individually, for which we don't have enough scale. And we recently made national press. Our executive director, Girish Balachandran, was quoted on our resiliency storage initiative. So a bunch of us are getting together to look at procuring, making a large investment that would help us with resiliency on the grid through a variety of technologies. And this is something that would be hard for any one of the CCAs to take on. And so that is in progress. We believe that we will have most of the CCAs in the state support the framework, and then on a deal by deal basis, we'll be able to decide how and under what specific contract terms we engage with each other to procure the storage. And then, yeah, there are many other possibilities, but primarily this is focused on those things we just don't have the scale to do ourselves as an individual CCA. And that's my report, excuse me.
Oh, did you want to talk about Cities Association and BACMed and your, that you'll be continuing until February, I guess, right?
Because I happen to be the chair of the Air District this year, I'd asked my colleagues to keep me on until we hand over the gavel, which happens at our January retreat. And although there's a newly resurrected policy that says once you're out of office, you shouldn't serve, my colleagues thought that that was a legitimate reason for me to continue service. The law about who's appointed and under what terms and all is basically a state law that's specific to our air district, the composition of the board and how long we serve. And it would allow me to serve up to 90 days past my being booted out of elected office. And so what was appropriate is to make it through the end of January. So I appreciate the mayor and it was a unanimous vote at the Cities Association to do that. So thank you.
Okay, Darcy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a couple of items to report. One was on November 6th, John and I met with each other on the Attorneys Bills Subcommittee meeting. We formed the subcommittee a couple meetings back to investigate the trend of attorney billing. And so he and I met, discussed our examination of the bills to date for the calendar year. And then again, on the 12th, we met with the city manager, our designated city attorney, and our finance director. So it was illuminating. I expect that we'll have an update and some recommendations to council sometime next month as a result of our efforts. On the 12th of November, we had a VTA Pack meeting. There was a fairly significant item on there, which I'll focus my comments on here, with regard to potential reallocation of Measure B funding. And given the fact that that's multi-billion dollars worth of funding, we definitely had something to say about that. I'm currently the vice chair of the PAC. That's the Policy Advisory Committee that's comprised of all the jurisdictions in the county, together with the county itself. So we have a pretty good coalition. So the way that VTA staff was trying to frame it was that they were providing what they described as informational material with regard to the 10-year prospectus of how Measure B funding would look. However, the upshot was that the vast majority of the funding would end up going to the BART extension in downtown San Jose, and other funding, and there are several buckets of funding, but one of them was road maintenance, which was one major reason why Measure B passed in the first place. That was essentially just not populated in their initial presentation of what their proposals were going forward. So, we definitely met with pushback. Our director of public works, Roger Lee, a couple of times before the meeting, and indicated that they had formed an ad hoc committee in the technical advisory committee, which is comprised of staff members from the various jurisdictions that meet usually a day before the PAC meeting. This past time it was 2 days before because of the Veterans Day holiday, but nonetheless, they met beforehand. They had an ad hoc committee meeting to talk about policy considerations with regard to Measure B reallocation, but that really hadn't worked its way through at all with regard to what had happened. And so, we did get an update from the VTA staff that basically kind of pre-assumed a lot of these very large amounts of allocations that would go over to BART in downtown San Jose. So I did put forward a letter to the VTA PAC as well as to the board. I'll share this with you briefly here. And let's see if this pops up.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, so I basically said, look, here's the item, there were, and basically what I just said to you, the reason this passed was that we, had certain allocations. BART was only supposed to get no more than 25%, and it's getting much more than that. I mean, in what they're suggesting. And so we were basically asking at this point, let's not accept the informational item as couched. And there was actually a 10-0 unanimous vote of the VTA PAC to accept my motion not to receive the informational item. And so what I noticed was that later in the week, or actually today, the VTA PAC meeting happened last week, but today Mountain View actually sent a letter, which I'll move over here. And so Mountain View, signed by their mayor, wrote a longer letter with regard to the same topic, and they got into more detail about what the various buckets were. Of course, they have some considerations with regard to Caltrain, for instance, that we don't have. And it's something that they sent as a council. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this to our council as part of my update here with a signposting that when we get to that item at the end of our meeting today, that I'll ask to see if there's any interest in perhaps adapting the letter that I sent as the Vta Pack vice chair to the Vta board and the Vta Pack, together with perhaps Mountain View's letter as a template to the Vta board as well. And we're talking about billions of dollars of allocations here. And it's not that, mass transit is not important, but in terms of what was apparently attempted in terms of its initiation of funding allocation, it does seem like that was quite different from what the voters voted for Measure B 4 years ago. And it would, of course, have a pretty significant impact on all of the cities with regard to their funding allocations from Measure B tax dollars. So there were other items mentioned in VTA that we discussed, but I think that was the most critically important one in terms of funding allocations going forward. And those are my committee meetings for this last couple of weeks. Thanks.
All right, very good. I will go next. Let me go. So Cities Association meeting was on November 12th. We selected representatives for BACMed, MTC, and ABAG. Also talked about sending a letter to ABAG regarding the RENA allocation. And on Saturday, I had the county call with Cities Association and Cindy Chavez, and I believe Joe Simidian. And at that point, they were talking about going back into red on this morning on Tuesday. And instead, we all heard we ended up back in orange, which is unfortunate.
Purple.
Sorry, purple, right. Yes, I was in a store yesterday and everybody's phone went off at the same time. All through Costco, it was, everyone stopped to look at the emergency message. It's unfortunate, but they believe that it was Halloween that probably precipitated the big increase in infections. And now going into Thanksgiving season, there'll probably be a lot of people ignoring the advice and getting together with members outside their immediate household, which will, of course, there'll be a lot of super spreader events over the Thanksgiving holiday, which is unfortunate. I think even our governor mentioned that he went to a birthday party, which he really shouldn't have done. I guess it was at French Laundry, he couldn't resist. But we really have to watch our behavior in the next few weeks because it's really going to skyrocket. I mean, until we have a vaccine, the US is not going to take the kind of steps that other countries have taken to contain the virus. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you. Go ahead, Leon. Dr. Chow, go ahead.
Okay, unmute. I don't have any meeting on the last 2 weeks. There will be 2 tomorrow. One is the Housing Survey Subcommittee at 12, and we will have our CUSD 2x2 meeting at 2 tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. John.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have any of my own committees, but I'm the alternate on the Route 85. So Councilman Sinks forgot to mention that we had a meeting yesterday. They had previously made their proposal to VTA about the bus route transit lanes on 85. And so yesterday then was about the investment strategy. And what I was hearing is that there's still concern about whether or not VTA is going to come through with the funding. But maybe Councilman Sinks, with his better knowledge of the situation, he might want to make some more comments on it.
Yeah, and Ron,
Yeah.
I see you do have your hand up there. So.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I thought about it while Darcy was talking. So there's actually a good article in the Merc about what went down at the PAC meeting. And I'm quoted, Joe Samitian is quoted, Howard Miller's quoted, I'm quoted, "We were all involved in that 2016 negotiation." And the headline is "Don't Cheat Us Again." And I was referring specifically to Measure A, where we were promised improvements. That was way back in the year 2000. So I talked about that history at the Policy Advisory Board meeting yesterday. You know, what they're doing now is they want to route us into yet another study. So every time VTA passes a phase, it seems like they need to do more study and study and study. But we did, thanks to a close vote of the board, advance the project. We were given money in this current fiscal year to continue the study. So that will go on for another 2 years. Hopefully this time it'll be done better. You know, the cities, including ours, the public works departments, professionals in each of our cities, including Mountain View, and Cupertino, really got on VTA's case for the poor job that they did with the 85 study that came in about June of this year. And, you know, hopefully the new planning director, Deborah Dagang, will lead a process that gets us a more promising result. You know, and it really was informed for us at the very end of the cycle in August with a letter from Jason Baker. He was also part of the 2016 negotiation as a Campbell Council member. He is now with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, but he polled his members and said, you know, we have all these trips every day in this corridor. Of the members we could get a quick read on, you know, there's a substantial amount of trips. This is a transit corridor. So, you know, why is it, VTA, that you can't do a study to save your life that is, you know, reflective of the real, you know, needs of commuters in the corridor? So anyway, we had our, what'll be end up being my last meeting. You know, all of us who were part of this PAB since the beginning, who had been involved in the negotiation, Jeannie Bruins in Los Altos, John McAllister in Mountain View, Howard Miller and I, we're all now termed out. So it's going to be up to the rest of you to fight for what you need to do. And I've suggested in my remarks at the meeting that maybe it's time to form a JPA of the West Valley and North County cities for advocacy for things like extending the VIA shuttle, for looking at transit demand management association opportunities, all of these things that sophisticated cities do, but we probably don't have the scale to do on our own. But anyway, this will be my last report on this, and appreciate all the attention and support I received as your representative to the PAB over the last few years. So thank you.
Okay, let's see. Leon, you had your hand raised.
If I may, I'd like to announce that this Thursday we'll have another professional and businesswoman networking group meeting. This used to be a monthly meeting that has been stopped due to shelter in place. And Angela Tsui, our economic development director, organizes this. It will be outdoor at the City Hall, and coffee will be provided. And then also our commission is open for application now, and deadline is early January. So if you are interested, you can start checking out the different commissions which would want to apply. Okay.
Okay, very good. Now we are on to the consent calendar. Did anybody wish to pull anything from consent?
I'll move the consent calendar.
I'll second it. Can we have a roll call vote?
Items 2 through 15, or 3 through 15, excuse me.
Councilmember Chow,
Aye.
Councilmember Sinks,
Aye.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul,
Aye.
Mayor Sharp.
Wait 1 second. There was someone who has their hand raised from attendees. If they may want to pull something. Kitty, did you wish to pull something?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Scharf. I'd like to see item 6 pulled and have the staff report read.
Okay, so let's have a motion I'll make a motion for 3 through 15, except for, you said item 6, correct?
Second.
All right, so yeah, Kirsten, conduct a new vote and we'll remove item 6.
Councilmember Chow,
Aye.
Councilmember Sinks,
Yes.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul,
Aye.
Mayor Sharp.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so now let's go back to item 6. Can we have a report from the staff? I'm not sure which staff. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. This is Zach Horach, Finance Manager. Item number 6 is the quarterly treasurer's report for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020. This is a relatively lengthy report, and so I'll just cover some of the highlights, and if there are specific questions, I'd be happy to address those. Quarter over quarter, when we're looking at the total cash and investment balance, it did in fact decrease by approximately $4.5 million, again, over the previous quarter. The total cash and investment balance as of September 30th, 2020 was $155.1 million. When we look at the average maturity, that decreased from 2.9 years to 2.89 years, relatively minimal amount. The average purchase yield decreased 5 basis points down to 1.78%. And the market yield decreased from 0.41% to 0.33%. And again, to provide a little bit of context and background on this particular item, the city did engage and hire a contractor, Chandler Asset Management Group, in 2018 to provide oversight and management of the city's
Excuse me, I hope this is not out of order, but all of this information is in our written packet, is it not?
It is.
It is.
Okay, so my request would be, if there's something specific that the public speaker would like to highlight, let's do that rather than having you go through a long litany. I mean, frankly, all of this has also been part of a public meeting as in the audit committee, so.
Thank you. That is a good suggestion. Kitty, did you have something specific you wanted?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Scharf. I would like to hear essentially what the financial condition is of the city, and have the public informed about it, because there's a lot of concern due to the pandemic, and people are very worried about what the city finances are like right now.
Sure.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah, we had this report, didn't we, last meeting?
We had the abbreviated report in the last city council meeting. And we also, in this city council meeting, have the full quarterly report, budget report, plus the work program status. It's item number 17.
Okay, so yeah, so Kitty, I don't think we're gonna go over the whole report since we did that at the last meeting, but do you have something specific you wanted
I think that,
stated?
sure. I think that the report can be highlighted probably in 3 bullet points for how things are doing, and I think that's important for the public to probably have that reiterated many times over. There's a lot of concern about what the financial condition is.
So if I could just add.
Yeah, if there's a couple of slides, you could do that. And it is true, I have heard this kind of concern. I think because other cities are having issues, there's some assumption that we are in some kind of serious trouble as well, which I don't believe is the case.
We're not. Early on, I reported that we had lost about 11.5 million projected for this fiscal year, similar to the loss in 1920. But correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, on number 17, the first quarter financial report will actually kind of reiterate our position versus this item.
We will be covering the fiscal condition more specifically in the first quarter report. The one item to note from an investment perspective and from a treasurer's report perspective is to look at the liquidity of the city and understanding its stability in previous periods as well as our projected future periods. So from the treasurer's report side, I would say that the city continues to be in a strong financial condition, and we'll cover more of that from a budget projection perspective as part of the first quarter financial report.
And that will be
item number 17.
Okay, right. Okay. So yeah, let's wait for item 17 since that will cover your questions, Kitty. I do see one more hand raised on item 6. Welcome, Neil McClintock.
Oh, wait.
You're unmuted. Okay, go ahead.
I think I raised too soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. We'll remute you. Okay.
I'll move item 6.
I'll second it. Roll call.
Councilmember Chow,
Aye.
Councilmember Sinks,
Yes.
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul,
Aye.
Mayor Sharf.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so now we are going to do item 20 ahead of items 17, 18, and 19. So this is the report on the Regnar Creek Trail private fencing allocations. And then the second part of this is the authorization of construction award for the project. So can we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Roger Lee, Director of Public Works. This agenda item to report on the Rignard Creek Trail fence allocations and expected expenditures was placed on the agenda tonight at the request of Council members Willie and Chow from the October 16th Council meeting. David Stillman, Transportation Manager, will be giving this presentation. The merits of Rignard Creek Trail have been considered by the City Council on numerous occasions over the last 2 years, and staff has been given the direction and funding to proceed with the project. I encourage Council and the public to focus only on the agenda of private fence allocations and authorizing the construction award of projects. So with that, David, if you would begin the presentation.
Thank you, Roger. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. David Stillman, Transportation Manager. I'm going to go through a brief presentation here for you this evening. Let's see, can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so as Roger mentioned, tonight will be a report on fencing allocations and estimated expenditures and authorization to award contract. Requested council action this evening, receive staff's report on the Regnar Creek Trail fencing allocations and estimated expenditures, and also to authorize the city manager to award the construction contract for the project. Start off here with a table that shows the fencing budget established by the City Council over the course of several meetings. First, the council meeting of September 17th, 2019, included within option D, which was approved by council, was $40,000 for the Lozano and De Palma Lane properties and another $175,000 for other properties along the trail. At that same meeting, City Council added an additional $150,000 for fencing. Then on June 16th of this year, there was an additional $400,000 allocation by City Council for fencing along the trail, bringing the total fencing allocation to $765,000 for the project. This slide shows the fencing options that were offered to residents living along the trail. Residents living across the creek from the trail can select from a standard wood fence or a composite fence only. And residents abutting the trail can select from any of the 4 fence types shown here, including wood with mass-loaded vinyl or precast concrete wall. Residents that select precast concrete wall will be required to enter into a private fence reimbursement agreement that will limit their costs to no more than $170 per linear foot of their trail frontage. If the selected contractor's bid comes in under our cost estimate, then these savings will go back to the resident. Residents also, of course, have the option to have nothing done with their fence and to keep their existing fence. This table shows the expected expenditures based on the extensive outreach performed by staff. Shown are the number of homes along the trail and the estimated cost to construct based on the actual fence option selections made by the residents. All property owners were required to inform the city of their fencing selections by August 7th. To date, 77 property owners have informed the city of their fencing selection, with 7 property owners in this group indicating that they did not wish to have their fencing replaced. Of the remaining 6 properties that have not made a fencing selection, 2 are unresponsive to both mailings and door knockings, and 4 have been in contact with staff but have not responded with a fencing selection. As the project will go to bid later this month, all fence selections have been finalized. This slide shows how the expected expenditures compare to the authorized amount allocated. As stated earlier, dollars allocated for fencing were estimates only, with no knowledge of the actual selections that would be made by the residents. Based on the fence selections that have been received, very few dollars remain. As a result, only changes that reduced cost can be accommodated moving forward. The available budget does not allow any increase in fencing costs. So as you can see in the table, the allocated budget, $765,000. The budget required based on the information we've received from the residents, $756,000. Now remaining $8,700, essentially they're equal. The next part of the presentation relates to the authorization of the award of construction for the project. Shown are the various authorizations requested tonight to allow the award of the construction for all trail and fence work. Authorization by council to award this project within the budget limits allows staff to quickly issue to the most competitive and responsive contractor a notice to proceed to start construction. This is expected to occur in January 2021. Bids received must be less than 90% of the project budget and not be protested. So why is staff asking for an advance award of construction authorization? Unlike many other projects, this project is constrained by a bird nesting season that begins February 1st and continues through September 1st. It's highly desired that the construction activity commences before the nesting season begins on February 1st. If it does not, protected nesting may require suspension of work within a certain buffer zone, which could significantly affect the progress of the project, possibly delaying it until the bird nesting season ends in September. At that time, we would then have to contend with the upcoming rainy season. Additionally, the lead time for the pedestrian bridge connecting the trail to Wilson Park is 6 to 9 months. It's desirable for this amenity to be ordered by the contractor as soon as possible. Receiving authorization tonight will help ensure, to the extent that weather allows, that the project will start in January and will be completed before the end of 2021. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great. Okay, before we go to public comment, are there any preliminary questions by council members? We will bring it back after public comments, so limit this to specific questions about the presentation. I see Rod, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I had a graphic that I prepared, and I wonder if that could be shown at this time. Could we show that graphic? I think Chris has it. The clerk has it.
Kirsten, do you have that?
Wasn't that for the
right? It's for,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm confused. Okay. Scratch all of that. I think it would be appropriate. I mean, I've been briefed a large number of times on this, and I will. I think my questions have largely been answered. I'm most interested in hearing from the public this evening. Thank you.
Okay, John, something brief on the presentation?
Yeah, I think it's important, you know, before the residents comment, that we're not here slowing anything down. We're just going to discuss, make sure that the money allocated for fencing is being spent the way we intended, and also approving to get this thing moving forward, something that we would have had to have done anyway as an approval. But there's nothing here slowing it down or questioning the trail itself.
Okay, great. Then we will move to the attendees. I have 22 hands raised, and I'm hopeful that not everyone will use all 3 minutes, but you are entitled to if you wish. And so I will just go down the list. First, we have Joel. Welcome, Joel.
Good evening, Mayor Sharp. Can you hear
Good
me?
evening. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Sharp and council members. My name is Joel Wolf, and I've been a Cupertino resident and homeowner for the last 35 years. I'm an avid walker and cyclist, and I'd like to thank the council for their past, current, and hopefully future support for bicycle pedestrian projects. Tonight, I join you by Zoom to advocate for the construction of the Regnar Creek Trail. I believe this is a great project which will serve the community well. I've been following the Regnar Creek Trail project for the last several years. Based on the number of residents who have come to council meetings and in the past and expressed support for this project, I believe this project has strong and widespread support from the Cupertino community. This project has been in the works for a number of years, and the city and community have invested a considerable amount of time, money, and effort to develop a project that addresses the needs of all stakeholders, including the residents adjacent to the trail. I applaud the council and city staff members for trying to accommodate the neighbors adjacent to and nearby the trail. I think you've been more than generous with your time and taxpayers' money. However, there will always be some opposition to this project regardless of what the city offers the adjacent homeowners. I think a standard whereby all stakeholders must be completely satisfied is not reasonable and is simply a guarantee that no public project, wherever it is located, would be built. So I think it is now time to move forward on the construction authorization of this project without further delay. I urge the council to authorize the Regnar Creek Trail construction contract authorization tonight. The project has many community benefits, and with the exception of the privacy fencing, it's my understanding that the trail construction will be paid for by Measure B funding. With the allocation of up to $150 a lineal foot for construction of privacy fencing, I think the council has been extremely generous to those residents directly adjacent to the trail. The city should not allocate any additional funds for the privacy fencing above and beyond what has already been allocated to date. I look forward to the approval of the construction contract authorization tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Byron Ravagna. Welcome. Let me make, I'm unmuting. I think you need to unmute yourself as well. There you go. Okay.
So first, thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thanks also to Deb Fang and her team for their hard work gathering the information in the staff report. This was a difficult task given the non-responsive homeowners. In addition to the benefits of the trail, homeowners adjacent to the trail are benefiting from public money being spent on their private property to the tune of $765,000. This is a win for the homeowners and the community at large. Secondly, I'm here to voice my strong support for this important link in the trail system long anticipated in the bike plan. It connects the east and west sides. Finally, I will not take any time to voice the many benefits of constructing the trail segment because you've heard it all before in the record number of times that this has come to council. It's time for you to vote approving the course of action set forth in the staff report, and I heartily endorse you doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being brief. Next we have, oh, I'm sorry. John O'Banks, it says you're using an older version of Zoom, so you will not be able to talk until you install the latest version. So we can come back to you later if you want to go install the latest version of Zoom.
There's a telephone option too, right? That maybe
Correct.
we can just offer just in case it's on the
Right. You can
agenda
also
packet.
call, and I don't have it in, well, I probably do have it in front of me.
Kirsten, can you tell them how to call in?
Yes, it is on it's detailed on the agenda, the published agenda on the city's website. Right next to the webinar link, there is a telephone number and the dial-in information.
Okay. I will move on to Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Connie.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Connie Cunningham. I'm a longtime resident of Cupertino, a senior who rides her bicycle. I ask today that you start construction on the Rignard Trail without any delays and without increasing its budget anymore. The environmental study and the sheriff said there will not be additional noise or increased crime problems. There is no reason to add more than the $765,000 already set aside, which is 30% of the project costs, for the neighbors for private fencing or walls to address problems that are not going to happen. Many people support the trail, and there are many excellent reasons, including it is a much needed off-street recreation path for residents of East Cupertino. It will take cars off the road and ease pollution. My personal interest in the park is as a biking route that is safe for seniors. Active seniors want to continue biking. It's one of the few sports recommended for seniors, and bicycling off street trails is much safer, and you know all that stuff. I took the smart cycling class, and I know that bicyclists do not win in any altercation with a driver if there's an accident, no matter who's at fault. I urge the city to please move forward with the Rignard Creek Trail, which has been planned and worked on for many years, without requiring yet another vote and without adding more cost. Thank you for your work on behalf of all the residents of the city on this fine trail. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Next we have Pramola Gokali. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, my son would like to speak. I'm going to let him go first and then speak a few words.
Sure, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Arnav Gokhale, and I'm in 5th grade in E10 Elementary. I'm here to request you to start the construction of the Regnar Creek Trail. I have 2 reasons why. A trail would be a safe place for everyone to walk. The trail would guarantee a safe route to many schools in the area. I sincerely hope you vote yes to start construction on the Regnar Creek Trail soon. Thank you for listening to me tonight.
Oh, thank you for being brief, and go Eaton Eagles.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, this is his mother, Pramola
go ahead.
Gokhale. And I'll be super brief. I'm a longtime resident of Cupertino and I live very close to the proposed trail. I'm just here to advocate my support. And I want to also thank the City Council for all their support in the past. I'm here to request to start construction on this as soon as possible. I know we have been discussing this for a while, and everything that has needed to be researched, discussed, reviewed has been done. This project has been subject to a lot of scrutiny and in the past. So I think our community really needs something positive. So I'm here to just urge you to start the construction on this trail as soon as possible. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight, and thank you for everything that you do for the city of Cupertino.
Okay, thank you for calling in. Next we have Helen Wyatt. Welcome, Helen.
Hello, good evening, City Council and Mayor. My name is Helen Wyant, and I'm a longtime resident of Cupertino. As an avid walker, I'm also a longtime supporter of the Regnar Trail, and I've spoken here before. It's a wonderful addition to the walking and biking routes in Cupertino, connecting 3 parks and the city center, and will give families a lovely local recreational option in a nature setting. With the improved bike lanes on McClellan, Regnar Creek Trail will now complete a safe crosstown route away from traffic. I urge you to vote to allow Regnar Creek Trail to go to construction without any more votes or delays.
This process has gone on too long with too many votes and delays for one simple project. The cost of the trail itself is covered by already allocated Measure B funds. Regarding the fences, we've already committed a sufficient amount of public funds on these private land improvements. As it stands, they're costing almost 30% of the total project and are an unprecedented use of public funds. I believe that what we are doing is more than sufficient to meet the concerns of the residents. There's no evidence that any additional fencing and associated huge expense is needed. As you know, the environmental study said that they would not face any adverse noise, and the sheriff has said the trail would be safe. I ask that you vote yes to bring the Rignard Creek Trail to construction without another vote and without adding any additional costs or delays to this project. Thank you so much for your time and for your support to date.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Next is Christian Lay. Welcome, Christian. Whoops, let me unmute you again.
Hi.
Oh, okay, so
Hello.
yes, go ahead. Now you're there. Okay, go.
Hi. Hi, my name's Christian. I've lived in Cupertino for practically my entire life. I've, went to the schools, etc. I think that the Regnar Trail is a great idea because, growing up here, it's been such an opportunity to be able to see, the changes that the community has gone through with adding these new trails. And so it'd be nice to kind of have it happen now so that we could see the work that we've put into it, come to fruition. The two main points I want to make are I think that the trail will just add to the safety of the community by keeping, people off the streets and putting them on the trail. And I think it would also add to the community of the community where people will be there and, they can meet and, make friends. I've made my best friends, being out and about. So I think that the Regnar Trail would, create this ambiance and create just a better Cupertino. So that's all I really wanted to say. And I really thank you for your time. Have a good one.
Great, thank you. Next we have Seema Linskog. Welcome. Oh, sorry, Samil Linskog. Welcome, Samil.
Hello.
Yes, you're on. Go ahead.
Hi, respected Mayor Scharf and council members. Today I would like to speak in support of the Regnar Creek Trail. A lot of people can agree this trail will benefit all of us. Now, I'm sure that you have heard that a lot, so I'll get right to why it will benefit me in particular. Ever since COVID started and we had to quarantine, I have not been getting as much exercise as I would like. And as a result, I've gotten a little chubby. When this trail is open, a lot of people who love to bike can bike there safely. Despite some people's belief, biking can actually be very dangerous, especially if there are a lot of cars around. You might be able to take side roads, but eventually you're going to face a car, and there's major risk involved when you do. You could not be paying attention, swerve a little, and that's all it takes. Statistically, every year about 144 bike accidents in California are fatal. And that's not counting the thousands injured but not dead. This trail would open up a safe place for people to bike and run and walk and work off all that quarantine weight that I'm sure many of us have gained. And this isn't even the only benefit. It would help kids have a safer route to school, a shorter route to school, and it would just give the people a nice trail that they could enjoy. So I hope that you will choose to begin construction soon. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Samil. Next, we are on to Jennifer Sheeran. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Scharf.
Good evening.
Council members. Can you hear me?
We hear you. Go ahead.
Great. It's been three long years of public meetings, votes, and trail walks, and you can see by the graphic. Hundreds of residents have told you they want this trail for so many reasons, and thousands signed the petition. You heard them and advanced this project with a 5-0 vote each time it has come to you, so thank you. Over the last year and a half, staff have had hundreds of hours of personal meetings and outreach with residents adjacent to the trail. As noted in the staff report on page 2, every property owner was informed multiple times they were required to give their fencing selection by August 7th, 3 months ago. Some adjacent residents are asking to delay this project, yet still more time to discuss the fencing and add more money or shift money around. This just isn't reasonable at this point.
Now is the time to make this trail happen. The project needs to be started. Another vote on the bids, assuming they come in on budget, isn't necessary. More discussion on the fencing isn't necessary. The staff report is clear that if this project isn't started by February, it will be another 8 to 10 months wait for the first shovel in the ground. Though the trail itself will be paid for by state Measure B funds, the fencing can't be. And I know that you want to make the residents that oppose the trail happy and ease their fears, and I get that. That's why you've set aside $765,000 or $9,000 per household. Experts such as the sheriff and the city CEQA study tell us, though, there isn't going to be crime or noise problems. Delaying to add more money or shift money around is really not appropriate at this point. So to summarize, the Rignard Trail is the same great project it's been all along. It's needed now more than ever. I ask you tonight, along with all the many residents who emailed you in the last few days, to vote to accept the bid for construction of this trail, assuming it's within budget, without another vote, without more delays, or without an increase in the budget. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Next, we are on to Minghui Huang. Welcome.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, dear City Council members and Mayor Sharp. I'm a Cupertino resident and the parents who asked you today to vote yes to move the Regnar Trail to construction without any more delays or more costs added to the project. The trail will be a safer and easier route for students of all ages, especially those traveling to Cupertino High and Eaton Elementary. It would also give my family more walking and biking exercise space, which is needed, especially during these COVID times. This project needs to move forward now. And it's already been 3 years we've been talking about it. And let's not delay this project another 7 months by requiring another vote. Moving forward to construction without another vote and without increasing the budget is the best way to show that you want what's best for all the residents of Cupertino, including adults, seniors, and our students. I ask you to do so at the meeting tonight. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Next, we have Emma Sheeran. Welcome, Emma.
Good evening, Mayor Sharf and City Council members. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, we've been discussing the trail since just after I graduated from Cupertino High School, and I'm glad to say that it will continue to be relevant to my life as a longtime city resident, as I've accepted a job locally, graduating from college this December. So as you know, we've been working on this for a long time, and this is an issue close to my heart. I walked to Cupertino High School every day, and I now take long walks around the neighborhood trying to get exercise during quarantine, as Samuel mentioned earlier. So I know from personal experience that the Regnar Trail would be beneficial to residents of all ages and would be especially useful now more than ever. So tonight I'm coming to ask you not to hold another vote if the bids for the construction come in on budget. Having to wait another 7 months for the construction to avoid nesting season would be a huge delay. And so I'm asking you to not hold another vote once bids come in and approve them ahead of time, assuming they're on budget tonight. I also ask that no more money is added to the budget for more expensive fencing or walls. I think it's a really great gesture that the council is spending money on making the homes have special fences and noise damping so that to improve their quality of life. But I'm worried that we should base spending decisions on benefits for all the residents, including the thousands who signed the petition for the trail and the hundreds who've come forward to speak about it, rather than these private property improvements. I'll try and keep it brief. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
Hey, thank you, Emma. Next, we have Lawrence Fan. Welcome, Lawrence.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, good evening, City Council members and Mayor Sharf. Thank you for listening to my consideration tonight. So my name is Lawrence Fan, and I'm a longtime resident at Cupertino. I am currently a senior at Cupertino High School, and I've been in support of the Regnar Creek Trail ever since
the end of my freshman year. So I've been really excited about this project, and I ask you tonight to bring the Regnar Creek Trail to construction without another vote, without any more delays, and without increasing the budget. So I have 3 points to make. First of all, this is a great project, and especially now during these times, it's needed now more than ever. So it's a great outdoor, not only a great outdoor recreational place, but it connects Cupertino High School with Wilson Park, Creekside Park, as well as the city center and library. And it would be a very useful route, and also it would increase safety, which many students, parents have really a lot of concerns about. So it is a really, really great project, and it has overwhelming support among its residents. And second point is that the project has taken extremely long to pass already, and I just really want to see it come to fruition as soon as possible. Again, I've been really campaigning for it since freshman year, and I'm now a senior, and I won't be able to use it to bike to school before I graduate, but I really hope that the other students will be able to take advantage of it as soon as possible. And finally, I want to ask you guys not to spend any more than the $765,000 on fencing, because the current amount in the budget is already very generous, and there is no evidence for that the crime would increase if we were to build this Regnar Creek Trail, which is a public city property. And yeah, so thank you for your time, and again, thank you for considering my concerns.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. We are on to Salani Mahajan. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Scharf. My name is Saloni Mahajan, and I have been a resident of Cupertino for about 12 years. I'm currently a junior at Cupertino High School. I ask tonight that you bring the Rignard Trail to construction without another vote, without any delays, and without increasing the budget. This is a great project that is needed now more than ever. It's great for connecting residents to the parks and to the city center, making it easier for residents to use alternative transportation enjoyably and safely. Additionally, it's great for students like me. Cupertino High School students who live near the city center and Wilson Park area can use it to get to school, and many Eden students can avoid the library parking lot, and students from other Eastern schools such as Cedric and Hyde can use it to go to the library after school. This is especially important for me because my parents are often hesitant to send me onto the main road, and this trail could essentially mitigate their fears. Next, this project should move forward now and go right to construction without requiring another vote, assuming that the bids come in on budget. Every resident's concerns have been heard over and over in hundreds of hours of personal and public meetings. My hopes are that I will eventually be able to enjoy it before I go off to college really soon. Finally, we should not spend more on private land improvements than the amount that is already in the budget, because the current amount in the budget of $765,000 for private fencing is already very generous. Divided by the total number of homes both adjacent and across the creek from the trail, it works out to more than $9,000 per home. Additionally, the Santa Clara County Sheriff has stated in the past that there is no additional crime expected based on all the other local trails. The council should spend their taxpayer money on these facts and not just on subjective concerns. That is all I have to say. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are on to Winfred Lin. Welcome, Winfred.
Hi, respected Mayor, Scharf, and council members. Today, I would like to speak in support of the Regnar Creek Trail. The reason I support the Regnar Creek Trail is because it will help me get to school when things finally reopen. When I used to walk to middle school, I would always have to cross a big intersection. Even with a crossing guard, I still felt nervous sometimes crossing it. The Regnar Creek Trail will provide a safe route to school for me. In addition, the trail will also be good for recreation. It will be nice to be able to walk around the neighborhood without any worries. After all, I have already been cooped up in my house for months on end, so some fresh air will be nice. So I hope that you will choose to begin construction soon. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Winfred. Welcome, Brock Carpenter. Okay, you are unmuted. Go ahead. Brock?
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Scharf. I'm a longtime, that is 39-year resident of Cupertino. I'm urging you tonight to bring the Rignard Trail to construction without another vote, without any more delays, and without increasing the budget. This is a great project that is needed now more than ever. Encouraging residents to walk and bike is a great way for our community to become more sustainable. Making it enjoyable and safe to do so, like building this trail, is a way to make that happen. A recent survey said that 60% of residents are walking more in their neighborhoods since the pandemic started. Having this extra space for safe recreation is needed now more than ever. In my retirement, I'm walking up to 8 miles a day in our neighborhoods, and I can't wait to be able to walk Rignard Trail. This project should move forward now and go right to construction without requiring another vote, assuming the bids come in on budget, that is. It's been 3 years since this project started, and at that pace it's going, I'm concerned that I may not be able to get you to use it before I get too old to enjoy it. We've got the budget. When the bids come in, if they are reasonable, let's not go through another meeting. Please just let the city staff build it. And we should not spend more on private land improvements than the $765K that's already allocated in the budget. That's already a huge amount of money to address a few residents' fear about noise or crime that experts have stated objectively won't be a problem. The fiscally responsible thing to do for all our residents in our city is to build the trail and not spend yet more money on private improvements. Thank you for hearing my concerns and for your work on behalf of the city. I encourage you tonight to build this trail now for everyone to use and enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brock. Next we have Tom Scannell. Welcome, Tom.
City Council members and Mayor Scharf. I've been a resident of Cupertino for 40 years, and I'm a longtime supporter of bicycle paths and pedestrian access. I've done a lot of work on supporting those sort of things on the west side of Cupertino, including the traffic mitigation surrounding the schools and access to Blackberry Farm. I think it's now time for better pedestrian and bicycle access on the east side of Cupertino. For our east side residents, it will be great for exercise, make going to our parks more easy, and encourage biking and walking to the city center. As many of the previous speakers have noted, the environmental studies and the sheriff said there will not be any additional noise or any increased crime problems with this trail. I ask you to start construction on the Regnar Creek Trail without any delays, and without increasing its budget anymore. Please, no more studies, no more delays, no more money. Vote and let's get going on the Regnar Trail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you for being brief. Next we have Jeff Paulson. Welcome, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf, City Council members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
You know, when I chaired various commissions and hearings, I would tell the attendees who wish to speak that if someone else said what you were going to say before you, that you needn't really say anything or keep your comments brief. That is the case tonight. So I really won't say anything, nor will I pontificate about my myriad and weighty qualifications for speaking. I would just say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the support of your trail.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. That was a record. Next, we have Dino Sakis. Welcome, Dino.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. I'm going to take this example from Jeff. I've agreed with everything that my predecessors have said. I love this idea of this trail. And I urge you to approve its construction and get working on it tonight. I have been a long-time Cupertino resident, and I know that more people will use their more people will walk to parks if you connect them, and also more people will use their bikes if they are away from traffic. And this trail does both. So. Thank you for considering my thoughts and your work and Cupertino, and let's build this trail now, and I look forward to riding it.
Got it.
Okay, thank you, Dino. And now Elisa Sakis, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf, council members, and city staff. I lived in this area for 34 years and in Cupertino for 29 of them. I love living in Cupertino, and I feel a lot of community pride whenever I tell people it's where I live. Having spent 3 years studying the Regnar Creek Trail, I'm confident you have diligently considered all the factors and angles needed to reach a decision. Paired with the addition of the bike lanes on McClellan Road that are being built, I only wish that these 2 projects had been completed years ago when my children wanted to bike between places that I felt were not safe and now can be. You would have saved me a lot of gas money, and I would have happily deleted the chauffeur job title from my parenting resume. So I'd like to urge you to please bring this project to construction without further delay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elisa. Okay, welcome Neil McClintock.
Hi. Yeah, I'll follow in the same footsteps of the last few people and keep it really short. I think it'll be really fair if I keep it really short, if the council also keeps the discussion short.
I hope so too.
So we don't go till 3 a.m. and everybody's asleep and then nobody knows what happened. Yeah, I like the trail. I don't even bike, to be honest. I'm more of a rollerblading kind of guy. Been practicing a lot during quarantine. But for those who like biking and want to use the trail, I think that would be great. And I want good things for other people because Cupertino residents deserve good things. So I hope you'll vote yes. And also I'm a little concerned about the precedent, just moving forward, that every time we have any sort of project that we're financially compensating people's private property over things that haven't been factually proven. Just moving forward. I mean, it is what it is now, so let's get it done with and over with. Yeah, cool. That's it.
All right, thank you, Neil. Next, Ann Ing. Welcome, Ann.
Go ahead, Ann. Yes. Good evening, council members. I'm Ann Ing on Bollinger Road on the east side of Cupertino, east of Calabasas Creek. I've already sent you an email, so I'll be brief. I'm looking forward to using Rignard Creek Trail to get directly from Creekside Park to the library and City Hall off street, at least once they're open again. I believe cyclists from over here, especially more families with children, will use the trail to get to Civic Center by bike instead of by car. Please vote to fund construction. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Thank you for being brief. Next, we have Sammy Lane. Welcome, Sammy.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and council members. Just wanted to bring a little interesting factoid in, which is that requests for cycling directions in Google Maps jumped 69% since February to all-time high. So I'm glad to see that this project is now at the precipice of approval, and I urge you to authorize the city manager to award this construction contract. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being brief. Next, we have Matt Widman. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'll keep this short. I'm a Cupertino resident and an avid bike commuter, mostly east to west in the city. And I'm really thrilled to see projects like this trail and the separated bike lanes projects prioritized by this council and made possible by the efforts of city staff. The demand for these projects in the community is clearly present. I urge you to approve this project to go to construction with no additional delays and no further increases to its budget. Let's start building this trail before February. Thank you for taking the time tonight to listen to residents, and I can't wait to use the trail next year.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Next, we have Shaya Nair. I'm sure I butchered your name. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Sharp. My name is Shari Nair, and I'm an 8th grader right now in Lawson Middle School, and I think that, well, building this trail will be great for students, since next year, hopefully, when I graduate, I can
walk down this trail to Cupertino High School without having to worry about cars, traffic. And I think this has taken a very long time. So I hope that I can use this trail by the time I actually graduate. So I think that the amount of the budget that's already been allocated, $765,000 that's been allocated, is more than enough for the fencing for residents who live next to the trail or adjacent to the trail. And I think we should just move forward with construction. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Eric Linskog. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, Major Sharp and City Council members. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Eric Linskog. I'm on the Bike Bed Commission, but I'm speaking here as a resident. I hope everybody hasn't forgotten that it wasn't very long ago since we were prisoners in our homes, not because of the pandemic, not because of the forest fires. And it's hard not to take that as a warning sign that, global warming is real and we need to do something. We need to change our ways, to figure out ways to produce less, greenhouse gases. And transportation by cars is a big component in that equation. Therefore, it's imperative that we encourage active transportation, like biking and walking. And in order to do that, we need to invest in, good walking and biking infrastructure like this trail. Not the least, so we can get our, young residents into this kind of modes of transportation. And also, this provides some, excellent recreational opportunities that are close to where people live. That's another reason to build this trail. I don't think we need to allocate any more money to fencing. We've done plenty of that. I encourage you to send out this project to bid ASAP and not bring it back for another vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Next, Helene Davis. Welcome, Helene. Oops. Hold on.
I'm unmuting.
Okay, great. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. I'm Helene Davis, and I'm a longtime resident and a former Parks and Recreation Commissioner. I'm also an avid walker and biker. The Rignard Creek Trail would fulfill priorities that were important to the community in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was approved by Council. The connectivity to our civic spaces, a walkable, bikeable community, and green spaces throughout the city, especially on the east side. So I agree with Jeff. I'll try and make this brief, but I urge you to support moving directly to construction without requiring another council vote and not to add any more public funding to the project for improvements on private land. This project has been too long in the works for a trail that is so beneficial to our community, and I am really excited to actually see this project come to fruition. So thank you for your time and for all that you do.
Okay, thank you, Helene. Next is Katrina Lahia. Welcome.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. My name is Katrina Lahia, and I have been the resident of the Fairgrove neighborhood for 16 years, and I have 2 kids in the Cupertino High School. It is about time that we build a continuation to the trail that comes from Creekside Park to nowhere. It ends at East Estates Drive, and if you bike, you have precious little options when the trail ends. So I've always wondered, where is this trail going? So it needs to be built because that little trail provides access to Creekside Park for all the people living west side of Calabasas Creek.
And I think it's only fair that we East End residents get our equally convenient access to the library fields and Wilson Park. You have allocated a huge amount of monies for the private fencing because the opponents managed to make this trail project into a wall project, and it became a fencing match. So I'm hoping that no more monies are allocated for that, and you just proceed with this trail ASAP. So bring it to construction as soon as possible. You have 1.5 years. In that time, my son needs this trail to bike to the Anza College. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Katrina. Next, we have Meenakshi Biyani. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, council members and Mayor Shar. My name is Meenakshi Biyani, and I have lived in Cupertino for 12 years now, and I'm a former Park and Rec Commissioner. I'm speaking today in support of Rignard Creek Trail. We are a family of walkers and bikers and appreciate the availability of safe biking and walking trails. Rignard Creek Trail has been in discussion for around 3 years, with multiple unanimous votes to move this project forward, because that is what the community needs, and everybody involved understands the advantage of having such a trail in our community. Yet, here we are again for yet another vote regarding the trail and discussion on more funding for fences. I request the council to please approve this project to go in construction without any delays. I believe that the concerns of neighbors of the trail have been heard and already addressed by providing funding for appropriate fences. I request the City Council not delay this project any further, with further vote and discussion. Cupertino residents needs this trail now without any delay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Meenakshi. Next, we have Dolly Sandoval. Welcome, former Mayor Sandoval.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'd like to thank you again for your former votes to support parks and parkland improvements in the Rancho Rinconada area with the addition of the Lawrence Mitty Park recently. While this will prove to be a positive benefit for our city, it took close to 20 years for this project to move from conception to today. And we'll undoubtedly have to wait at least 2 more years before we see construction ending and the park can be realized. Tonight, I'm attending the meeting because I'd like to support the Rignard Creek Trail. I appreciate your previous votes. As a longtime active resident in our city, I'd like to stress that it's necessary and generally welcome to continue to build on our trail, on our city's past successes, and develop a better walk-bike system here. We know that residents feel safer when they have greater access to non-car routes. We know that students feel dramatically safer when they can navigate our city amenities on non-car routes. Whether we're pedestrians or bicyclists, traveling for fun or commuting to work, improvements like the Rignard Creek Trail gets people out of their cars, reduces traffic, and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. It is known also that an indirect benefit to one's physical self also has a positive impact on their mental stability. This is especially needed in this era of COVID, whether we're in a purple sector, orange, or red. I expected the council to have a definitive vote on this east-west connector last fall. As a former council member, I appreciate the needs of the residents abutting the trail and their push to implore the city to explore safety measures for those backyards in close proximity. While the nearly $1 million price tag seems rather steep for an unprecedented fencing amenity, I hope this brings the city council to an affirmative vote this evening. I'd rather the Lawrence Mitty project I spoke of earlier not be the standard here. I'd like the Rignard Creek Trail to not be a 20-year project. We do not need more delay. We need action. You or those who can take the action, please approve the trail this evening and start construction before we're blocked out by the birding season. The sooner we do this, the sooner we residents can utilize this amenity. Thank you again, council and Cupertino staff members, for your time this evening and your commitment
to make this trail a reality. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you, Dolly. Next, we have caller 3992. Welcome. I think you need to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go. Okay, we hear you.
Hello. Yes, I'm the person who was with the old version of Zoom.
Oh, okay. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, council members and Mayor Scharf. I'm Yano Bank, longtime Cupertino resident, and I greatly support the Rignard Creek Trail. Thanks for working with the residents. You have been very, very accommodating to them with this fence allocation. I urge you to authorize the contract tonight. Please, no more votes, no more meetings. Let's just get this trail built. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being brief. Next, we have Kelly Tung. Welcome, former Commissioner Tung.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. My name is Kelly Tung, and I am a student at Monte Vista High School. I am also representing the Youth Environmental Power Initiative tonight. I have continuously voiced my support for the trail since I was in middle school, and I ask you to approve the Regnar Creek Trail construction without another vote or any further delays. One of the main benefits of the trail is the safety that it offers. Many parents are reluctant to let their children walk or bike to school due to the danger of getting into a car accident. However, with this trail implemented, we can increase the safety for students that plan on walking or biking to school. As a student myself, I truly believe that the Regnar Creek Trail will be extremely useful when students come back to school, which may be next year. This increased safety will encourage more students to walk to school, and studies have shown that students who walk or bike to school have better academic performances and are generally healthier than students who do not. This trail is not only beneficial for students, but also for our environment and community as a whole. If more students and residents take the trail, then less people will drive cars to get around, which significantly reduces overall traffic congestion and carbon footprint. Furthermore, residents can also take the trail to go to parks, the library, the city center, and more. Due to the pandemic, more residents are actively walking in their neighborhoods than they have before. This trail will allow residents to distance safely while getting the exercise that they need. Cupertino truly needs this infrastructure to make our community more sustainable and better our residents' safety, welfare, and health. I ask you to make the Regnar Creek Trail a reality by voting today in approval of its construction. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Next, we're on to Jasmine Varma. Welcome, Jasmine.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Jasmine, and I've lived in Cupertino all my life. I currently attend Monte Vista High as a sophomore. Tonight, I'm here representing the Youth Environmental Power Initiative. I ask you tonight to bring the Rignard Trail to construction without another vote, without any delays, and without increasing the budget. This is a great project that is needed now more than ever. Cupertino High students who live near the city center and Wilson Park area can use it every day to get to school. Many Eaton students can avoid the library parking lot, and students from other Eastern schools such as Sedgwick and Hyde can use it to go to the library after school, which is highly beneficial to study ethic. From an environmental standpoint, this trail also benefits the local environment. As more people using the trails to walk or bike as one less car on the road. It's also great for connecting residents to parks such as Creekside, Wilson, the library field, and the city center. Furthermore, it's been 3 years since this project was first initiated, and I think we can all agree that it's far too long for a trail project to take. Every resident's concerns have been heard over and over and heard hundreds of hours of personal and public meetings. To address a popular concern of residents who live adjacent to the location of the trail, the independent CEQA environmental study shows that no additional noise is affected on the trail. The council should spend taxpayer money on scientific facts, not subjective concerns. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Next, we have Sonali Kali. Welcome.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Great, cool. I'm actually Sonali's daughter.
Oh, all right, whatever. Go ahead, welcome.
Yeah, my name is Prachi, and I am a 9-year resident of Cupertino. I'm currently an 8th grader at Lawson Middle School,
and I urge you tonight to bring the Rignard Trail to construction without another vote, delays, or an increased budget. And I agree with everyone who's spoken so far, so I will try my best to keep this brief. Basically, this is a project that is needed now more than ever because it'll create a safer distance environment for outdoor recreation and people to exercise. And it has already been 3 years since the start, and we need to make the most of our time, especially right now. And not to mention, this project is doing an amazing favor for the environment, as it has a reduced carbon footprint because of reduced parking and car travel. Slowly but surely, our planet is getting eaten up every day by climate change, and while many people are passionate about this, real change will only happen if we as a community decide to take action. Even this simple act of building a trail is a huge step in the right direction. Thank you for your consideration and all of your work on the city. Let's work to create a better and safer Cupertino for all. Thank you. And also, my sister would like to speak as well. So
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, give us a second. Okay, so again, a lot of people have said a lot of very helpful things already.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So I've lived in Cupertino for almost all of my life. I've been here since kindergarten. So I attended Eaton Elementary School, and I currently attend Lawson Middle School. And as someone who I'm employed to go through without any more votes or delays. There are many reasons why this project needs to happen, but the most obvious one is probably just that we need it a lot. Because as previously mentioned, it's very useful for exercise and other forms of recreation like biking. I also mentioned that I am a student at Lawson, which is another reason to bring the trail to construction because it's much safer for us students when going to school or even just meeting up at places like the library. Plus, as many others stated, there really isn't that much of a need for an increased budget, and this movement has been around for 3 years already. We know that this is good for our students, many other residents, and the environment of Cupertino. So with all due respect, let's not wait around any longer and get this trail going. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are on to Lourdes Diaz. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and council members. I'm Lourdes Diaz, and I've lived in Cupertino my whole life. I attend Monte Vista High School, and I'm a representative from the Youth Environmental Power Initiative. Tonight, I request that the Rignard Creek Trail be constructed without any more delays, without a budget increase, and without any more votes. I think that the trail is a great project that would strongly benefit the health of our community. This trail would help encourage residents to walk, bike, skate, etc., which will increase both active fitness and sustainable transportation within our community. As an advocate for mitigating climate change, I believe that taking steps in reducing our carbon footprint is crucial, and in fact, it is. The trail will be both enjoyable and safe for residents to use, and so the project should continue to advance. Considering that this discussion has been prolonged for 3 years, I believe that it's necessary to consider both the time and resources of the residents. This topic has been persistently advocated for and shouldn't be further delayed. Personally, I would love to be able to travel and practice longboarding on the trail with my friends before it's too late. Thank you for hearing me out and for all your hard work.
Okay, thank you, Lourdes. Now, Janet Van Zoren. Welcome, Janet. Go ahead. Oh, wait, let me unmute you again. I think you need to unmute yourself as well, Janet. Go ahead. Okay, there we go. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. Hal and I are 44-year residents of Cupertino, and our home is adjacent to the Southern Pacific Railroad track that runs through Cupertino. This corridor is used by many residents as an unofficial trail, and it gets a great deal of use. I'm very happy that you are moving forward and hope you will complete that process tonight with the Rignard Trail. It's well needed in this community, and we very much support that trail be built. What I'd like to address tonight is some of the concerns about the fencing and the reason for the fencing. The fence that we have between us and the railroad tracks where the trail is being used unofficially
is a simple wooden fence, just like the fences that separate most of the homes here in this city. It has never been a problem for us. With regard to privacy, that has not been an issue. There's no more noise or commotion or anything than what we have just from adjacent yards with neighbors. With regard to crime, crime is an interesting thing. We were a little concerned about that when we first moved here, but over the 44 years that we've lived here with a simple wooden fence behind us, what we have found is that when houses are broken into on our street, much more often are the homes on the other side of the street, away from the railroad tracks, the ones that are being broken into. So, you know, it really seems unfair to assume that just because there's going to be a trail behind these houses, that crime would increase and that a much more sturdy, secure, fancy, expensive fence is necessary to mitigate that. That said, I feel that it's very commendable that the city council is being thoughtful and wants to be fair to the residents. But by the same token, I think we've kind of overdone it. So I would really like to encourage you to move forward with the trail without any more delay, but with no increase in the budget for fencing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Next, we are on to Sue Rennie. Welcome, Sue. Go ahead.
Hi. I had a question about graffiti. One thing that I've really appreciated is the entrance to Creekside Park, the brick wall there. Whenever graffiti comes up, it's very quickly painted. I'm assuming it's by the Parks Department. Will the same thing happen for the Regnar Creek Trail?
Roger, would you like to answer that? Or Deb?
Yes, it would be abated with the same swiftness.
Okay, very
great.
good.
Thank you.
Was that it? All right, thank you.
That was it. Yep.
All right, thanks. Next, we are on to Revathi Narasimhan. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight, Mayor Sharaf and the City Council members. I'm here to support the trail, and I've sent an email to the group as well. Just 2 quick points. Please build the trail. We've talked about this for too long, too many long nights. And as my kids asked me today evening, are we going to do this yet again? So I really hope you're not voting one more time. The second one is, I think we've spent enough, 30% of the project's money towards the residents' concerns for privacy. And I'm one of the walkers, avid walkers of the UP trail that a lady ahead of me just talked about. People constantly on the trail, and I've never seen any issues with crime. It is safe. It's used as an unofficial trail by several people in the neighborhood. Not seen an issue. So please don't add more budget to private property from public spending. If you choose to do so, you'll have to give us, your residents, a complete breakdown of how you're choosing to spend and why. Thank you, and great job with the COVID numbers in the city. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Larry Dean. Welcome, Larry.
Hello, Mayor, Sheriff, and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. I'm Larry Dean, a longtime resident here of Cupertino. And first, I'd like to say congrats to Deb, Roger, and David Steelman and John Raymaker on the great work that they've done on the second phase of McClellan Road. I think it's turning out very, very well. And I'm looking forward to see how all the paint and the lane markings work and how that's going to work going across De Anza. I'd like to thank the council and staff for getting the Rignard Creek Trail to this point. As has been said, 3+ years, countless outreach meetings, multiple unanimous voting on the project. It's time to get the shovels in the ground, don't you think?
Icing on the cake here is the staff's gaining access to the Measure B funding. I didn't anticipate that, and that's a great coup. Congratulations to Deb and the staff for getting that. $2 million is a lot of money. I'd like to thank you also for bending over backwards to take care of the neighbors, and your generosity. I agree with everybody else ahead of me that we've spent enough, but I know that taking care of the people is very important to any entity and any organization. This trail will enhance the image of Cupertino as a healthy community and as being bike friendly as Davis, Irvine, or any city in Santa Clara County. So this is a good deal. We urge the council to support the staff's plan tonight and approve the funding and get to work on this trail. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And next we are on to Ari Feinsmith. Welcome, Ari.
Hello,
Yes,
my
we
name is
hear you.
Ari Kleinsmith, and I'm a community college student. I don't actually live in Cupertino. I live in Sunnyvale, but I'm calling into this because I live near the Greenbelt, the John Christian Greenbelt in Sunnyvale. And on this Greenbelt, it's very similar to the Rignard Creek Trail being planned here.
Ari, we lost your audio. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll
All right,
back
we
up.
hear you now. Okay.
So I live along the John Christensen Greenbelt in Sunnyvale, and they have wooden fencing along pretty much all of it. And there's not an issue of crime or anything like that. So I do not see why there should be a difference in Cupertino. And so I would suggest that you do no more spending and build the Creek Trail as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ari. Next we have Dennis Cunningham. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey, Mayor, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
I'm Dennis Cunningham. I'm 73 years old. I've lived in Cupertino for almost a half a century. I wrote to you, I heard about this Rignard Creek Trail about 3 years ago, and I wrote a letter to the council, and I told all the good reasons why I thought it was important to do. And lo and behold, that night it was approved, I think unanimously. And I thought, boy, these guys are sharp. This is really good. And then later, somebody told me that some of the residents wanted like $750,000 for fencing along the trail. And I thought, oh no, okay, that's that. It was a good idea, but it's never going to happen. And then I heard you guys said okay, and I thought, great. So I thought tonight's meeting, when I saw that this was on the thing tonight, I thought this was about the ribbon cutting to open the trail. And I thought, wow, that's super. And now I'm sitting here and I'm hearing that you're still talking about voting on how to proceed and whether $10,000 a house isn't enough. Come on. Take yes for an answer. You've said yes lots of times. Just do it. $10,000 a house is enough. It's a good trail. Let's do it. Thank you for your time. And you're mostly doing a good job, but it takes too long. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Yes, a lot of things take a long time in the city. And I wish it was the ribbon cutting too. Okay, welcome Teresa Olson.
Good evening, Mayor Sharp. I am also in agreement with the trail. The trail is important because it offers a level path. It's really close to Chateau Cupertino, and walkers and wheelchairs in particular benefit from level paths because sloping driveways can cause them to tip over if they don't approach them carefully enough. And Rodriguez is not level. Also, there's a lot of moms traveling from Wilson Park to the library with the strollers. Strollers are easier to
push on level paths, but there's a danger to the young children in the driveways because if they take the south side of the street, there's a lot of driveways, and the young children may not be visible to people backing out of their own driveways. And then on the other side, there's a lot of high capacity driveways, the waterfalls and the Biltmore driveways. The cars can exit and enter and exit a lot quicker than expected there. And then finally, during the pandemic, it's not really been uncommon to see walkers in the streets of both Rodriguez Avenue and Vicksburg's Drive as they're trying to avoid each other. So I would like you guys to approve this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Next, we are on to Brenda Boyle. Welcome, Brenda. Brenda, try unmuting you again.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to relinquish my time to Siraj, who has a slide presentation on behalf of those of us who abut the trail. And I hate to disappoint the Cunninghams, but my husband's been here 61 years. And he's also going to relinquish his time to Siraj. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll wait. We're not up to Siraj yet. When we get to Siraj, you can have the other time. Welcome, John Geese.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for the time. I just wanted to be brief. I also, like many others, encourage you to pass item 20, Rignard Trail, without any additional funding. This whole project has been analyzed very well. I think it's enough analysis. Time to move forward. Most of us in the Valley are great at analysis, and there's something as over analysis. So time to go. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you for being brief. Next we have Jian, Jian. Welcome, Jen.
Mute myself. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So good evening, everyone, city council members and city staff. And my name is Jian He. My family has lived in Cupertino for 15 years. And actually, I emailed you. I want to just make this first paragraph really quick. So we love the local parks and enjoy the public trails every day. But since 2014, I have served on the advisory board for Walk by Cupertino. You may remember that year, 2014, a 15-year-old Monte Vista High School student was killed in an accident on McClellan Road. So since that tragedy, more than 2,000 members have joined our effort to identify and support safe and easy biking and walking routes for our community. So on behalf of all our members, I thank you for all this great progress for this nice trail project, Rignard Creek Trail Project. So it will be the best safe route to school in that area of Cupertino. So I actually spoke to you in June about this project and then talk about COVID-19. So now I'll just cut that one off. And so tonight is the third time to vote on the Rignard Creek Trail Project. So thank you for all your hard work all these years to reach this moment. So please vote yes to kick off the project construction in January 2021, and without more delay and without adding more public funds to private use. So together with all the supporters, so you have invested a lot of time, energy. So please make this the final vote and make this project a reality soon. Then thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is June Wang. Welcome, June.
Good evening, Mayor Sharf and City Council members. My name is June Wang, and I am a longtime resident of Cupertino. I am also currently a sophomore at Monte Vista High School. This project will benefit the commuting students of Cupertino. This trail is helpful to students like myself who walk, bike, or use other forms of alternative transportation daily, and students who use it can commute to school and the library, all while avoiding the parking lot nearby and other hazardous areas. Having a trail will ensure the safety and well-being of students, and the alternative transportation it enables will be one step towards a more sustainable future in our city.
As a high school student currently and a middle school student when this project started, I wish to use this trail before my high school graduation. There are others in a similar position to mine, and any further delay in construction will prevent all students from fully taking advantage of this trail. As such, approval of the Rignard Trail construction should move forward now without requiring another vote. Let's get this trail built now for students and all residents to use and enjoy. Thank you for your consideration and work.
Okay, thank you, June. And now we are on to Siraj, and I understand that 2 other people yielded their time to you, so welcome. You're unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, council members, Mayor Sharp, city manager, and staff. Kirsten, can we go to the previous slide? All right, so I'll begin this presentation saying that we have I'm speaking on behalf of residents abutting the trail, and I'm beginning this saying that we have no intention to delay or oppose the trail. We just want to ensure that we get proper protections without having to pay thousands of dollars out of pocket, potentially without adding additional budget for fencing. So in this first slide, I want to show how the allocation of fence funds have been made. So out of the $765,000, option D, the pie chart on the left, option D was a staff request, which was for $215,000 at the beginning, which was $175,000 for the homes abutting and $40,000 for the Lozano and De Palma, which is blue. At the same meeting, there was an additional amount of $150,000 added, for which De Palma and Lozano got $120,000, and the rest of the $30,000 were left for the properties abutting the trail. Now, in June of 2020, the city staff came back with needing another $313,000 for the homes opposite the trail, which needed $188,000 for wooden fencing and $125,000 for MLV for the residents abutting the trail. But the city council also added $87,000 over there for the cost of the precast concrete. So the totals over here allocated are as follows, right? Lozano De Palma ended up with $160,000. The homes opposite the trail ended up with $188,000, and the homes abutting the trail were $417,000. So that comes out to $765,000. Now, if we go to the next slide, that shows how these actually got used. So this is, again, a busy slide. I'm going to show the properties, the allocated budget, and the projected cost from the staff report that we just saw. So the Lozano and De Palma, it ended up being approximately close to what it was allocated. So the allocated was $160K. It ended up being $168K. The solutions over there, the resolutions needed iron fence and a solid concrete wall. The homes opposite the trail, the allocated budget was $188K. However, if you see over here, this is ballooned up to $261,000, which is $73K above the budget. And as far as the homes abutting the trail, the allocated budget was $417K, out of which they're only getting $326K. And the residents have been asked to pay $154K to get to the budget of $765K. So as you see over here, there have been differences in the way that the budget has been allocated and has been used. If we had to use $73K above budget for the homes opposite of the trail from the estimate that staff had, it is unfair to have taken it away from the homes abutting the trail. And this has put additional financial responsibility on the homeowners who are abutting the trail. If we go to the next slide, I think as everybody has said, right, even we believe that $765K is a big enough amount that it should have, if allocated and used properly, it should be enough for fencing requirements for all the residents. However, there seems to be some errors or some mistakes over there, as pointed out in the previous slide. So I think to get to the bottom of this, it would be very useful if we can actually fill in this table, right? Like, I think Lozano and De Palma, we are not touching over here, right? But how many homes opposite the trail are requesting for wood or composite fence replacement? And based on the cost per linear feet, what's the amount that it comes out to? for the homes abutting the trail, how many homes have requested precast, or how many homes have requested MLV or wooden or wood composite, and what's the linear feet and how much is the cost? And I think if we allocate it properly, we should still be within the budget. I think the question is like, how do we ensure that it gets allocated properly over here? Now, can we go to the next slide, please? So given where we are though, right, like what are the resolution options? So the number one resolution option over here is, can we fund the gap that exists currently? The gap is currently 154,000. So we do understand that the city has received approval for Measure B funds. And does this reduce the budget stress for the city's funds to be used to resolve this for the residents? Or the second option is, can we ensure that the allocated $417,000 for the homes abutting the trail are actually spent on the homes abutting the trail, which just leaves a gap of 63K instead of the 154K. Now, if the city doesn't spend a dollar extra, that means that the residents will have to pay 63K out of pocket, which is still a lot less than 154K. Or the third option, which works best for the residents, is we use our own licensed contractors and we build our own precast concrete fences. And if we as residents actually build this, the cost to build this is less than $200 per linear feet. There is some extra overhead for the city to build it. So we could build it ourselves for less than $200 a linear feet. And can the city reimburse us for this? In which case, the city doesn't go above budget and we don't have to pay $170 out of pocket for the fence. So these are the three options that we have. Can I go to the next slide? The next three slides are a background of the allocations, right? Like, so this was the option D, where we have the Lozano and De Palma getting $40,000, and the other section of homes abutting, which is 2,600 linear feet, getting $175,000. If we go to the next slide, it shows the number 2 over here shows the additional $150,000 that was added for homes that are adjoining the trail to address privacy concerns. And then if we go to the next further slide, this shows the June 16th, one where $400,000 was allocated. So if you look over here, the standard fence on the opposite side of the trail was $188,000, and the rest of the money was needed for the MLV, and the city council had added $87K when we had raised that precast concrete fence as an option, and that could be just a little more expensive than the MLV. So given all of this, if I can go to the next slide as well, I know that there was a question that was coming up as if like, if we could resolve this for now, right? But what if more residents ask for precast fence, right? And there are multiple ways to look at this, right? Like, and assuming the fact that the city doesn't want to increase the budget, like we could solve it in multiple ways. So for example, over here, I've given examples as to how many percentage of homes ask for precast concrete, and assuming that the rest are asking for composite, and what would be the total cost? And subtracting from the total cost is what the residents would have to pay themselves. So for example, over here, if all 100% of the residents ask for precast concrete, the cost is $855K, out of which $417K is paid by the city. So $438K ends up being paid by residents, which comes out to $164 per linear feet. But if only 40% of the residents asked for precast concrete, then the total cost is $542K, and taking away $417K, which is allocated for them, the residents have to pay $125,000 back to the city, which is only $47 extra per linear feet. So I think the options like these could be thought out and used for this, right? But given where we are, I request the city council to find a solution for us. I think it is unfair for us to pay extra money out of pocket when the estimations from the city has been incorrect, and additional funds have been used for sections that have not been allocated the funds. Finally, I request the City Council, we don't want to stop the authorization, we don't want to delay the project, so I request the City Council that you should authorize the construction of the project, but also help resolve this for homeowners and trail users as well, right? I think it is time to close this once and for all the parties involved, and get Cupertino residents on a more friendly note towards both the parties. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jiang Hee Yi. Welcome.
Hi, I am also a Cupertino resident living on Lamar Drive, abutting the trail. I request the city to distribute the budget approved by the council to the residents as intended. As we just have seen in Suraj's slides, we saw the budget was not distributed as fairly. Mr. David Stillman refused to distribute the underused budget for properties abutting the trail to fund the precast concrete wall. To be fair with the residents who opted for a less expensive option. But it turns out that the city is distributing the fund meant to be for those abutting the trail for others. How fair is it? This is very unfair and contradicts their own statements of fairness. That needs to be corrected, and the budget needs to be replenished as approved. And this doesn't require as additional budget. The city just needs to correct their own mistakes of budget distribution. And also, I request to consider increasing the budget with extra funding from Measure B to provide precast concrete wall at no cost of residents abutting the trail. Because I know many residents on my street that want precast concrete wall, but just simply they cannot afford, including myself. And also I note that when the additional budget was allocated on June 16th of 2000, Councilman Darcy Paul, I remember, did mention that the cost paid by the city could be kept at 150 per linear foot. I think that probably is why the city is insisting that the residents has to pay 170 per linear foot, assuming that the total cost would be 320. But that's under the context. The cost would be around 170, as we had a quote from independent contractors, so that the spirit of the statements was that the city would pay most of the cost by having 150. But now the cost is elevated to 350, and the city is demanding 170 per linear foot. That means actually $12,000 to $28,000 per household, depending on the length of their property lines. That is a lot of money, and that essentially is the amount that the residents may pay if it is built on their own without the city's subsidy, because the city's subsidy all goes to the overhead by having them built by the city. And as we don't exactly know how many residents want concrete wall, but based on the city's cost distribution and the residents that we know who wanted for the concrete wall, I think it is around 30% of residents living abutting the trail wanted to opt for concrete wall, which if it is the case, the residents' portion of the cost would be $27 per linear foot, as we have seen on the strategies slides, which is a much lower cost than 170. So that we really need, and also there are some of the 7 residents who didn't even opt for any fence at all. And I know at least 2 of my neighbors on Lamar Drive.
Okay, please finish up, your way over time.
Right. So just to summarize, I want either distribute the fund as intended and fairly. And if the budget increase is not possible at all, then at least allow the residents to build the wall on their own and they get the cost reimbursed. Value Water already does that as a public agency, and I don't know why the city of Cupertino cannot.
Okay, you're done. Thank you. Next is Alongo Gongo. Welcome, Alongo.
Hello, able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Ilango Ganga. I'm a bicycle and pedestrian commissioner.
But in this case, I'm speaking as a Cupertino resident in my individual capacity on behalf of myself. So I'm not here to talk about the merits or demerits of the trail here, and neither about approvals or no approvals here, because the City Council already approved it in the last year. So why am I here? I'm here for raising two points. One of them is the party that's proposing a project in the city is supposed to provide the mitigation measures as per the general plan. That includes the mitigating for the privacy and security of the neighboring residents. So in this case, the city is the agency that's building the project, and it has to be responsible for mitigating this. Many of the residents here spoke about the Creekside Park, the path near the Creekside Park, and the residents next to the Creekside Park. The city fully funded the concrete wall next to those residents. The same thing is being requested by the residents on the other side of the trail as well. Now the city got got to use $1.885 million of the Measure B funds. That relieves the cities of the budget constraints. So you have enough budgets to provide the proper mitigation measures for the residents that requested for it. The second thing is a procedural issue that I'm bringing forward. People were coming and complaining that, there were many approvals done. First time the approval was done was for the study session, feasibility study. The second time the city came for approval is to choose. They presented 4 options, design options in front of the council, and asked for the council to choose one of the options. Now the city is coming and saying that they're asking for, award the contract. Award the contract to who? An unknown bidder. And also the city is saying that no design has been completed 100%. It has not been reviewed in the appropriate commissions, and also the regulatory permits are still pending. It has not been reviewed. Even the last time it was not reviewed in the appropriate commissions for whether it is compliant to the general plan. Example is the Planning Commission. So I want to remind that even last time when the money was appropriated, it was not put in the agenda. So this is setting a wrong precedence. I'm just bringing what we are saying is, as long as you like this project, we can go ahead and present a concept and ask the city to appropriate funds. And even without starting the bidding process, you can ask the city to award the contract as well to an unknown bidder. It is a wrong precedent. This is how you're going to get future public works projects coming in here, and they will be asking for awarding the contract. I don't think that we should be doing this. And I just want to remind one thing. This is the intent of the Brown Act. The people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people in delegating the authority do not give the public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for the people to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain the control over the instruments they have created. You once before appropriated the money without putting in the agenda. 100 people spoke on that day. Nobody spoke about allocating the budget on that day. Why? Because they did not know about it. Same thing, complete the bidding process. The council meets every 2 weeks, and then come back to the council and show the bids, and then get the approval for the millions of dollars. Up. And thank you so much.
Okay. Next we have J.R. Fruin. Welcome, J.R. You're unmuted. Go ahead. Oh, let me do it again. Hold on. Oh.
There we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Sharf, council members. I'm really just here tonight to ask you to please make a final decision on fencing allocation so that this trail can move forward toward construction. The time frame is running short at this point if we want to beat the nesting period. I think that the community deserves closure on this project, and I really hope that whatever differences people have had over the trail, the council can lead the community in a civil and reasoned discussion tonight. We really need to be able to move forward on this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for being brief. Next we have Dinyar Dastur. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, so good evening, council members. Yeah, so I also would like to be brief and a very small request. As Mr. Lango mentioned, we need transparency in the amount of cost and the breakup that we are going to have
about the fence. The main issue that we are seeing here is that as residents, we have been asked to sign a piece of paper which is committing us to a number without knowing what we are committing to. There is a maximum amount, I understand that, but that does not mean that each residents have to make a decision based on somebody's bidding process. So a simple request to the council members are that before we are signing any agreement, we would like to understand how many households have opted for precast, for wooden, and therefore what is the budget allocation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Juliet Sheeran. Welcome, Juliet. You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Scharf and City Council members. I'm a student at Cupertino High School, a Cupertino Safe Routes to School teen liaison, and a member of the Youth Environmental Power Initiative, YEPI, as well as being an advocate for the Regnar Creek Trail since the start of the project more than 3 years ago. It's still a great project for Cupertino. It'll encourage students to get by school by biking or walking, and encourage their parents to allow them to do so. I'm glad that you've heard this reason and many more at all the other meetings and public comments, even when you voted to get the project this far. The total amount already in the budget for the new fences is $765,000. I was at the meeting when Captain Uranus said that no increase in crime was expected and that he hadn't seen any problems on other trails. Other trails don't even have concrete walls or special fences. For example, on the Saratoga Creek Trail that I was on this past week, they're just standard wood backyard fences right up against the trail, and the backyards aren't very deep. Other trails in our own study show that this trail won't be loud either, and of course it will be closed after dark when people could be sleeping with their windows open. The amount already in the budget to cover special noise blocking fences is generous enough, and we shouldn't add any more. Please leave the budget as is. Even the most well-intentioned fiddling with the amount of money allocated is necessarily going to delay the project by 8 to 10 months. I understand that you have nothing but good intentions, but when the first trail meeting was held, I was in Lawson Middle School. Now I'm a junior at Cupertino High School, and there still isn't a trail. At this rate, I will be out of my home and away at college before it's possible for me to even set foot on it. Tonight, I ask that you don't require another vote, add more delays, or increase the budget before you start construction on the Regnar Trail. Let's make this trail happen for everyone. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Okay, thank you, Julia. And last, we have Timothy Wee. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you very much for letting me speak this evening. I'm very active in the Cupertino community, teaching soccer coaches and bicyclists. Thank you for moving forward on the Rignard Creek Trail. This is an amazing asset for Cupertino. I was bicycling recently on the Union Pacific Railroad Trail, noticing that they don't have fancy fences there, and there's lots of people going back and forth on the Union Pacific Railroad Trail going through Cupertino. In fact, many of the people there built gates in the back of their fence so they get to the trail. You know, subsidizing this fancy fence for these neighbors is certainly a very nice thing to do, but it goes far above and beyond what Cupertino really needs to do, and may set a difficult precedent if other trails require these large funds to be expended on trails. So I do urge you to move forward quickly and economically, and thank you for building a beautiful trail. And that's all. Thank you.
Stephen, you're muted.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead, Seema.
Okay, hi, respected Mayor Scharf and council members. I respectfully request that you vote unanimously to move the Regnar Creek Trail forward to construction with no additional votes and no more delays. Mr. Destur said he wanted transparency, so let's talk about how our taxpayer money is going to be spent for fencing. So this is city data that I put up here. So as you can see, there are 29 homes that want a standard wood fence, and that works out to about $6,000 per home that wants a standard wood fence. 15 homes want a composite wood fence, and that's $13,000 per home of our taxpayer money that's going to those homes. 7 that want mass loaded vinyl, that's $9,000 per fence.
11 residents want precast concrete. That works out to about $13,000, $755 per home in the current budget of $756,000. And then we have the 8 homes on Lozano de Palma, who are getting about $21,000 of taxpayer-funded property improvements on their private property in our $756,000 budget. The residents are now asking for an additional $154,000 for those 11 homes that have selected precast concrete. That works out to another $14,000 for a total of almost $28,000 per home for each of those 11 homes. And I just want to point out here, they chose to do concrete. No one's forcing them to do concrete. They could do any of those other options like standard wood, composite, mass loaded vinyl, but they're choosing to do concrete. And they would like us as the taxpayers to fund that choice at the count of $28,000 per person, per family. I ask you to reject these requests to increase the funding or to discuss any possible reallocations or discuss creative payment options. These are all unreasonable asks and really simply delay tactics. There's nothing fair about spending more city taxpayer money on individual personal property simply based on complaints and not objective data. The sheriff said, and the environmental study showed, that there are no risks of increased crime or noise. There's simply no objective basis for asking the taxpayers to fund these concrete walls to the cost that they're requesting. It's a terrible precedent for future Cupertino Public Works projects. We've been discussing these needs of these residents for 2 years now. We've been more than patient as we've waited. We absolutely wanted their needs to be heard, but enough is enough. No more funding, no more delays. Let's get this trail built in a fiscally responsible manner. Thank you for your work on behalf of the city, and I look forward to walking this trail someday soon.
Okay, thank you, Seema, and that ends the, we will bring it back to council. I would want to point out the agenda item is to receive the information report on the fencing allocations. We are not discussing changing the funding for fencing at all. It was just to receive the report. We received the report. The second item on that agenda item is to authorize the city manager to award a construction contract in the amount not to exceed 90% of the appropriated project budget. So saying that, I will bring it back to the council members for discussion. Does anyone have anything?
Yeah.
I see Dr. John Willie. Welcome, John.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to go first. You know, I've been asking questions about the fencing allocation. If I can ask Kirsten to I had sent her an email with some slides, but let me say a few things first. So at any rate, it's great to hear as many residents come and talk to us tonight. I mean, that's first and foremost in what I like to see. And I believe this whole council is very pro ped and bike path. And that's why I think we voted 5-0 to move this one forward. We listened to the residents, and the result is the Rignard Creek Trail is going to be a reality. But we also have a duty to make sure that all the residents have been heard, and I think we have, but then to make sure that the city dollars are being spent the way that we expected them to. And so with that, when I look at the numbers, I had questions and I haven't had them really answered. So if Kirsten could throw the slide up, start with the first one. So this comes from the staff presentations that they did back when we approved it and stuff. So now I'll take it piece by piece and I'll try to be fairly brief. So if you go to the next slide, so it's larger and we can see it. So the concern for residents that abut the trail and for the De Palma and Lozano Lane is safety and privacy. And Lozano and De Palma have the greatest impact and so I consider them to be an A priority. The houses that are abutting the trail, I consider to be a B priority, and houses that are on the far side of the trail, I consider to be a C priority. And when we look down here, the night that we approved, I believe it was option D, there was 365,000 put aside for the fencing, 160 of which was for Lozano and De Palma. And when I had talked to Gary Wong after the meeting that night, he said he was satisfied that his property, his house would have the safety and security that he thought. So if you can scroll that up just a little bit, it's off of my screen there. There was also the remaining, after the 160, 205, which sufficient to provide the standard wood fencing on all properties abutting the trail, and some that are on the other side that needed it. Okay, that comes out to $72 a linear foot based on city staff's presentation. $55 for the wood fence, $5 for removal of the old fence, and I think $12 for something else brought it to 72. Great, okay. When it came back to us and the residents told us they were still concerned about safety and privacy, so scroll up to the next slide, we then allocated $200,000. And again, we're talking, in my view, the priority B houses that abut the trail. There's 264 linear feet into $200,000 is $75 per linear foot. So that night, in my view, when I was voting to increase the allocation by 200,000, that's where it was to go, to the residents that spoke that were abutting the trail. Okay, now it came back to us, you know, a third time, and if you can scroll up. And the numbers that were put out, precast would mean that the residents would be paying $170 per linear foot. We approved another $200,000, and again, dividing it primarily for the B priority that are abutting the trail. And I'd also concede, well, let's give another 50,000 to houses on the other side of the creek. So that's another $56 per linear foot for those houses abutting the trail to address their safety and their security, you know. So that being said, when I looked at the final number and compared it to the $170 that residents conceivably are going to have to pay, if you can go to the last slide, that to me came out to $203 per linear foot for the priority B houses. And city staff, yep, they have to do, you know, their contractors that meet all the city requirements and are going to cost somewhere around, I think, $320. 320 minus 200, I think those priority B residents should be then in a ballpark closer to $100. And when I saw the numbers and I looked at them on a piece of paper like this, it just seemed to me that the money that we intended was kind of being used in different ways than I intended. And I just want to point this out to the rest of the council and to city staff. The message that I'm sending is that, you know, every dollar of taxpayer money is important, and that it's very important to me to make sure that it gets spent as I voted to spend it. So I'll leave it with that. Let's see what the other councilmen say. I'm not in favor of adding any more money. I think $765,000, $735,000 is sufficient. I think we need to move forward with this. We shouldn't be delaying. I don't think we are delaying. I think it's just the the time that the project has taken for the investigation and the solutions to be created and brought back 35%, 60%, and so on. So that being said, that's where I'm at. If that's not the right number, well, okay, I understand. We're going to move forward. And lastly, I'm so happy to hear so many youth talk about the importance of the climate change. Yes, we really do need to be making some significant changes in how we get around and lean more on transportation modes without the carbon footprint. So that's where I'm at. I'll leave it to the other council to make their comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Leon, would you like to go now?
Okay, yeah. So let me first ask a question. The staff report says there is all required permits from regulatory agencies are expected by late November. And now it's November 17th. Could you clarify what permits we are still waiting? What are their status?
Yes, Councilmember Chow. There are 3 regulatory agency permits, environmental permits, that are required to construct the project along the trail. At the time we wrote the staff report, we had received one of them and we were waiting for the other 2. Since that time, we've received a second one. 2 of them are in hand, and only the third permit is outstanding. And those are the 3 permits, if I can remember, Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps of Engineers, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the third one is, but we do expect that third one to come in within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's great. So with these 3 permits, and then we can proceed, right? So
we will need the permits in hand before we bid the project, yes.
So we cannot proceed any earlier before the end of the month anyway, right?
Most likely, yes. We probably won't have the 100% drawings complete by the end of November as well.
So the 100% drawing is not ready either. So when do you expect that to be ready?
Early December.
Early December. Okay, that's good to know. So there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about the schedule of this project. That these fencing choices are not delaying this project at all. We would have to wait until early December to really put the bid out, because we need the permit, we need the design is not even completed yet. So please, let's not put the blame on other residents who are impacted by the trail. They are simply they simply want to have something that the council promised to them they simply want to get what we have promised to them. And there is some confusion on how it's allocated. They are not asking for any more. They are not, anything they have asked didn't delay the project. Okay, let's clarify that. If someone have misinformed you, you should know that this person, you should know that maybe next time find out more. The project started, yes, in 2018, before I was even on the council. At that time, the feasibility report was presented to the council, but turns out none of the 5 options presented then was feasible. Therefore, the staff had to really figure out, I think Deb and Roger and David figure out a creative solution to move the ramp to the north side. And then there is the issue of baseball encroachment on the baseball field. They have to move the ranch and move the bridge. And then there is the easement issue. We have to swap with the water district. So there are a lot of things. Because we have to move the ramp, they have to get the permit, which they were trying to avoid earlier. That turns out it wasn't possible. So all of this has been going on. Our staff trying everything they can to deliver an even better project than the one now than any of the 5 options envisioned back in 2018. So be patient. Don't put the blame on the wrong people. Everyone is doing their best to deliver this as best as they can. And I think Cupertino residents should be, we are compassionate to each other. Many, many people want this project. We have approved this project. That's not bully our handful of residents who are affected by the project. They are simply asking for what the council had promised them. They are not asking for any more. They are not asking to delay this project. They know project is approved. No one is asking for disapprove of the project. No one is asking to delay the project at all. This project is proceeding as fast as it could have been. Okay, let's get that straight. So let's be patient. Rush, I would like this to be over. You are not in every meeting. I'm at every meeting. I have to listen to every comment every minute. I would like this to be over. No, I think all of us want this to be over, right? But then sometimes we can rush. We just have to figure out the best way we can for our residents. And this is what we are trying to do here. I don't want to allocate any more money, but I do want to make sure that we keep our words and what we had promised, and to the residents that we should figure that out. If there is some confusion, that's clarified. Let's see if there are other ways to mitigate the project. Okay, so I don't want to delay the project any further. Let me clarify a second thing. The project now is split into two portions, the construction portion and the fencing portion. Are they going to be bid as separate projects by could be two different bidders?
But yes, potentially there would be two different bidders. It'll be two separate plan sets that are put out to bid. Yes.
So we could just proceed with the construction of the trail while we are I'm hoping to figure out the fencing option today, but just in case, we can still proceed with the bid for the construction without delay, because I think anyone can construct their fence any time of the year. But the bird nesting season we do want to do the construction of the trail before February, right? Is that the right understanding? So we can separate them.
Yes, we would very much like to start trail construction before February.
Yeah, and separating the projects would cause increased cost. We'll have some scale of economy by having construction management of both projects simultaneously. That's significant. And then the access to build the fences would be from the trail side. You have a completed trail. It would be less than good to have that kind of construction activity on a new trail if it could be avoided. So it's not something that I would recommend.
So are you saying the residents abutting the trail should not be replacing their fence and on their own anytime during the year?
Well,
all of them can do it, right? There is no restriction on the time.
Well, they can, but they'd have to get, typically that would be done from the private property owner's side.
Yeah.
They'd have to get permission from the Valley Water, and they'd have to coordinate with us as well once the trail is done, because the trail would have to be closed while fence construction would occur. If access came from the creek side.
Let me understand. So today, let's say a resident wants to replace their fence today on their property. Do they have to get permission from Valley Water or the city to do it?
They would from Valley Water if they're going to try to access their fence from the Valley Water side.
Okay. Because they will need to be standing on their ground while doing the fence.
That's
okay.
Right.
So that's more of they need access maybe during that time. So after the trail is constructed, if anyone wants to replace their fence at any time, especially those who didn't ask for replacement now, they will still ask for Valley Water for for permission, I guess then city needs to send out notice that this portion of the trail might have
And-
construction activity.
Well, and that's not something I would advocate. They should be required to rebuild their fence from their property side, not close the trail, not access from the trail.
Okay, so in going forward, there is option and it's preferred option that residents just replace their fence without disrupting the trail at all, and it's possible to be done.
Yeah, if it's from their private property side, yes.
Okay, so so then you said that if two pieces of this project, construction and the trail, are combined together, it's preferable. Why is that? If it could have been done separately anyway, if the residents can get it done without interrupting the trail activity.
Well,
so
it's more economical because we'll have one person out there watching the construction for both the trail and the fence. It would be coordinated such that, you know, we do have 0.8 miles of trail here, so they could be working on the bridge while they're working on fences somewhere else. And so that one person could manage both projects. That's a cost savings. And then you're not having the fence construction occur on a newly constructed trail, because that's big equipment, and it'd be best for it not to be subjected to that.
Okay. Does that matter if they are the bids are by the same company or different?
No, they're both competitive. They're both competitively bid. I would doubt that it will be the same contractor. It could be.
So it might be, because I guess specialty will be different. It might be different contractors, but then we can still save in terms of management.
Yes.
Of both projects. Okay. Now, I think my recollection of the allocation of the funding is similar to what John analyzed, and that the fencing improvement was meant mainly at that time for the homes abutting the trail, because I think, yeah, allocating 400,000, I was surprised at that time the rest of the council went for that big amount. And at that time, we were really trying to make it right by the residents so that they can have better fencing. And now, when I looked at the number, it doesn't make sense to me. I do feel more should be allocated. But then the residents told me they know that I don't want to allocate more money to the project. And residents, the residents abutting the trail, they also feel if they get more allocation, the residents opposite side of the trail might lose their allocation, and they don't want to be competing against each other either. So one other option they proposed was if they can construct this themselves, as if they are replacing the fence today, and they don't have to, they can replace it on their property from their side, that they can do today anyway, and in anytime in the future. So why can we allow them to do that and reimburse the project cost that the city would have spent if we were constructing? Could we do that?
Yeah, well, the short answer is no. The public contract code requires certain bidding requirements, prevailing wage.
No, this is private project. It's not it's on private property.
It wouldn't matter, Councilman.
Why is that?
Because it's public funds, and whether they're used on public property or private property, they have to follow statutory requirements.
They can replace the fence on their own, but they won't get any money from the city.
But the water district has this voucher program that does reimburse them, right?
Well, I saw that, but it's not part of a larger project. They're one-off things that are happening. This is part of a larger project. It's a public works project. Our city attorney could talk about this more.
Well, these are separate projects. You can say, I mean, these are two different projects. the project didn't include fencing earlier. We added the fencing earlier. It's a separate project.
It's not recommended, and we wouldn't want to be contrary.
And also, you are building on private property. Wouldn't you need their permission? You cannot just build the fence today. They require their permission, right?
No, that's correct. And we have a private fence reimbursement agreement that would include us having the temporary construction easement to construct the fence. That would be part of it.
So this is essentially a private project on private property.
No.
You're using
the
catch is you're using public funds.
Public dollars, you can't do that.
This is like a mitigation fee. It's sort of like the city charging mitigation fee of traffic mitigation, and then we're mitigating the impact of.
Yeah, no, I'm just telling you, it's not appropriate. We can't do it.
I would like to remind folks, because we're stuck on the dollars, is that we should, my recommendation is we go out to bid so we can actually get firm pricing. It's very favorable right now, so I don't want to talk about it too much in public, but any savings we promised will go back to those that have chosen precast concrete.
And I would like to
quite a lot of money though for each of them.
I'd like to remind everyone again that this is not on the agenda.
Yes.
We only were receiving the report on the fencing options. We were not reopening discussion on trying to reallocate it or come up with other options.
No, that we are receiving the information specifically because there is confusion on the allocation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have requested.
I don't think there's any confusion.
I'm confused.
Okay.
The residents are confused.
Okay,
John is confused.
so finish up then. And let's
maybe someone else wants to go. I want to go to the dollar amount next.
No, just go now. Just
you want me to continue?
Yeah, just finish up.
Okay. So on September 2019, so I think we allocated the option D is 2,600 feet of wood fencing. That's including both abutting and opposing trails, right?
Yes, that was the amount that was just set aside for wood fencing. And at that time, that's all we knew to be thinking about.
Yeah, so and that's supposed to cover both sides and wood fencing.
Yeah, I don't recall if it covered every fence on both sides. I don't think we anticipated at that time that that was likely. David, you may recall more than that.
No,
it did not specify one side or the other. It was just a placeholder put in the estimate that we were assuming that there would be about 2,600 feet of fencing that residents would desire to be replaced, be it one side or the other, and that was the purpose of the money.
So it was an estimate of 2,600 in total that might need to be replaced. We have more.
Can I correct that? If Kirsten could put my slide back and go to page number 2, that is the staff report. Page 2. So it says there, scroll up a little bit because it's at the very bottom. Okay, that's the staff report. Very last paragraph, 205,000.
Well, but that doesn't change what we're saying. It was that's what was earmarked for wood fencing for the project.
Right. All houses abutting the trail and some on the other side.
All abutting and some on the other side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the estimate was 2,600. And what's the total linear feet we need to replace now? How many on each side?
David, do you have that number?
Are you asking how many total linear feet are on both sides of the trail, or how many feet are people asking to be replaced?
How many linear feet people are asking to be replaced? That's in our budget. What you budgeted now?
I would need to give me a moment, please, and I can
Okay.
get that number for you.
And as David does that, you know, what happened on September the 17th and what council authorized, it did not allocate any specific dollars to one side or the other of the creek. And it did not do that again on June 16th. That was not part of the authorized action.
That's the staff report says.
I'm going by the authorized action did not specify what amount of fencing or type.
From what I remember, actually, my memory is we didn't cover the trail opposite the houses opposite the trail.
No,
I remember we were saying, we only have money for the houses abutting the trail.
But how the fence allocations were done for equity was those that were immediately abutting the trail were offered precast. They are offered all the fence choices from standard wood fence, composite, mass load vinyl to precast. Everyone opposite the trail was offered standard wood fence and composite. And the reasons why the people abutting the trail were offered mass load vinyl and precast is because of their direct concerns of privacy and security. That was not offered opposite the trail, and that's how it was equitably distributed to everyone.
So apparently they don't think it's equitable. So while we are waiting for the data, I'd like to say something.
I can tell you the information if you like.
Let me just say, I'd like to ask everyone to be patient with this. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. If you feel there is injustice, wouldn't you want that to be corrected? And these residents, they are not asking more. They know the project is happening. All they are asking for is a fair treatment that they thought they got, and then they found out they didn't. Let's put ourselves in their shoes. And wouldn't you want your city council member to be patient and spend time to figure out the best possible option for everyone? So let's be patient. Thank you.
Well, and I respect that, but if you do any reallocation to a few, then you need to offer it to all, and it will reshuffle everything, and it will delay the project.
If you don't separate them, I mean.
Well, yeah, and I'm not recommending that they be separated, but if you change it to where the precast folks get more dollars, then you'd have to go to other folks and say, okay, well, now it's more dollars. Are you now interested in precast? Because now those people will say, well, hey, that wasn't the deal offered to me, and where does it end?
Well, you put it on the agenda now, last minute. Don't ask me.
What?
What?
I mean, you are pushing the schedule, and now tell me there is no time to change.
We are not pushing.
I think we asked for this. John has been asking for this for quite some time, and residents have been asking this for quite some time. It's
Okay,
not
do you
to
have,
say that, oh, this.
do you have anything else, or what? Are you done?
So
David owes her the answer to the linear.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
The number of linear feet. Okay.
So by my calculation here, we are replacing 2,385 linear feet of fence on the trail side, not including Lozano and De Palma. And we are replacing 2,725 feet of linear feet of fence on the opposite side. And just for information's sake, we are not including Lozano and De Palma. We are expending city funds of $137 a foot for near side properties and $75 a foot for far side, opposite side properties.
Oh, sorry, 170 for the one near this trail.
137.
137.
And 75 for a far side.
How many feet for the abutting the trail? How many total? 22,000. I didn't
Went
get
2,385, not including
five.
Lozano and De Palma.
Okay. So the estimate earlier in the September 2019 was 2,600, and now it's almost double, right? And
For total linear feet, yes.
so that's a problem, right? It was almost double, and now we are offering on the opposing side the wooden fence as promised, and then we are offering the abutting side. But then because it's more than we had budgeted, now it's eating into the fund we had allocated for a better fence. I think at that time, June 2020, the council went from initially 200,000 to 400,000 because we wanted to give them a precast better fence. And then turns out for them it's they need out-of-pocket expense that they didn't expect. So they are asking for this rightfully, I would say. So how do we find a better solution for them?
Yeah, well,
Do
I
you
would
have
argue
anything
that,
else, Leon? Yeah, I don't think there's any right. I mean, we've already been extremely generous. And it's true they have to pay for the concrete fence, but the other issue is they're getting a long-term benefit in that the concrete fence, the wooden fence may last 20 years before it has to be replaced at the owner's expense, but the concrete fence probably lasts 40 to 50 years. So they don't have any, almost no periodic replacement costs. So, I would dispute your characterization.
But we promised them in June 2020, and the implementation is different from the direction from the council. So this is something we need to clarify. Yeah, they are getting more.
Well, I would not agree with your characterization, but anyway.
Because we allocate that extra because we would like them to have better fence at that time, right? So let me understand, let's say for a standard house, their backyard, what's the total price difference between wooden and vinyl and precast? So if they go for vinyl, the cost is covered right now, right?
Correct.
correct.
And then it's those going for precast, it's not.
Correct.
But then the out-of-pocket amount is a lot bigger now because we are covering twice as many wooden fences as we had budgeted for, right?
I don't know the
So
exact numbers, but
we are taking money out of what
yeah,
should have been allocated for.
well, yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with that statement. And those residents who are getting those fences would argue that that's their impact and what they chose, and that's what.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever told they would get a complete concrete fence at the city's expense. Well, I don't recall them ever being promised that.
But I recall that additional funding was for getting a better fence, but turns
Right,
out part of
but-
the additional funding went to the wooden fence on the other side, which we didn't budget for. And that's not their fault. We didn't expect, it's not 2,600, it's almost 5,000 linear feet, twice as much.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't mean to cut off Leong or anything.
No. Yeah, I want her to finish so we can move on to the next council person. Are you done, Leong, or do you?
So do you agree that we are on building more wooden fence overall twice as much than we had intended to at the expense of the houses abutting the trail, so that they have to pay more out of pocket because of that?
No, I don't agree with that.
And justify
Okay.
yourself. Justify yourself.
No, I've been at all the meetings. I don't
No,
agree with your
we
statement.
didn't allocate 5,000
Okay.
linear feet of wooden fence. Where did that came out of only today? I heard.
Okay. So do you have anything else before we move on to the next council member?
Okay, go.
Okay, Rod, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this has been from my perspective, the end of a long process. In June of 2016, we funded the bike plan and adopted that plan that had been in works for a year and a half. It was a very ambitious plan. Several of us spoke at that time and subsequently interested in really making a connection between our high schools, between Cupertino High, the library, and Monte Vista, and all the places in between. So from my perspective, we haven't exactly rushed things at all. We've taken lots and lots of time. In September 2017, we began the feasibility study for this particular trail. In February of 2018, we adopted our pedestrian transportation plan. This trail serves both of those purposes. We then, in August of 2018, adopted a feasibility study. We approved a budget for design and environmental review. In September of 2019, over a year ago, we got the 65% design review completed. And at the end of the year, we completed 100% of the design. We successfully negotiated really smart deals with Valley Water to create a path that'll be easier for cyclists to navigate. We, to my way of thinking now, probably allocated too much money to fences because we are setting a precedent here. It's extraordinary to pay $13,000 for precast concrete or $21,000. I even hate to quote these numbers because I'm concerned that in approving this, as I hope we will tonight, that other people are going to have these expectations. And at the end of the day, though, we have voted again and again and again to move this forward. We're not rushing anything, and it's time to approve this. So I would be pleased to make a motion here. I'd like to accept the information report on fences, authorize the city manager to award construction if bids come in that are within 90% of authorized budget, further to authorize a 10% contingency, and all of this per the staff report.
Great, I will second that.
And I really don't have more to say about it than this. It's other than, when we give staff a task as policymakers on this council, we ask them to go over this again and again and again, work with the residents, set some deadlines. At some point, it's enough. And our job is not to go micromanage and revisit everything staff has done. I think, the other thing I would say to my colleagues is, gosh, we're policymakers here. We have to empower our staff to, we have to direct them. We have to make a budget allocation, but we have to empower them to do the execution and the work. And so I want to honor all the work that staff has done in working with Valley Water and working with the residents. And I hope we can move this forward tonight without further ado, I do not want to delay this anymore, arguing about exactly how much everybody's going to get on these. There's a lot of public money going into these fences, folks.
Okay.
And I think
So
it's
this-
appropriate that we get the, we be efficient about this. So if the public works director says I can be more efficient by building the fences at the same time I'm building the trail, let's let him do that and not spend another dime on this.
Okay,
Let's
so
move it
there's a
forward, folks.
motion and a second. So Darcy and I have not weighed in yet on the discussion. So
As we know for our rules of order, actually, we're supposed to take motions and then discuss specific
Right, that is
motions.
true.
So that's mine.
okay, so I will go now. So I agree with Rod. We've kind of set a bad example here. If you look at every other trail, creekside trail in the county, I don't think a single one has ever had the city or county pay people for replacement fencing. It's not necessary. It doesn't provide any additional security. And yet I was in favor of doing this because we want to do what's right for the residents. And if they feel, if it's their belief that there's going to be a noise issue, we offered the mass loaded vinyl at no extra cost, no cost to the residents, even though it's significantly more expensive than a plain single layer wooden fence. If they wanted a concrete fence in their backyard, they have the option for that. And yes, they do have to pay the difference, but they are gaining some benefits from having the concrete fence in terms of longevity, if that's what they want in their backyard, to have the concrete. I do agree, this project, it took a long time. Like many things in city government, it takes a long time. It was not rushed. And the agenda item of receiving the information report on the fencing, that wasn't rushed. That was asked for by 2 council members. I wanted to put it on the agenda 2 weeks ago, but because it was right before the election and we didn't want a really long meeting, we decided to push it out until the meeting tonight. So, I'm in favor of authorizing the city manager to award the construction contract, as Rod's motion said, and to move this project forward. It's time. And Darcy, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, no, I allocated or suggested allocating the rather generous amount for the fencing originally. And so I think that we should move forward at this point. We don't know what the estimate is going to be when we take it out to bid. As Deb had mentioned briefly, it may well be under what we're expecting. I know that there's also a 10% contingency, and I assume that 10% comes off of the $910,000 staff estimation. And so that 90%, I think, gets you a lot closer to the 765,000, I think it was. So, I think we should take it out to bid and find out what the numbers are. I wouldn't mind getting an update, from staff when we have those hard numbers in front of us. But I can support the motion. I mean, I would just ask, in terms of, support for this or that, or undermining the process, or, our fellow, public members or council members, I would just ask that we not do that. Hopefully we can hit the restart on that. Personally, I think this has been a good process. We originally had a project that was at one point up around 6 million. And so, if we could kind of ratchet down the rhetoric and stop the finger pointing, I think that would really help the community on a number of levels. So I'll support the motion. Thanks.
Great.
Okay, I have some questions. So first of all, I think we are policymakers. So we hope the staff would honor our direction too. And that's why I'm confused. The residents are confused. When people are confused, that means probably our directions were not completely followed. And therefore, we need to find out why. And they have been asking for that. And I don't think our meeting was long last time. This one is really long. So any reason we didn't do it earlier, and now someone's telling me we have to do it now, there's no time. That's why I'm like, why we have to push until the very end and then you tell me you don't give me time to explore a better option for our residents. This is not undermining the staff. It's the staff undermining the council direction. And that's getting all the
I disagree
residents.
with that, Ms. I disagree with that, Councilmember Chow. If you watch the actual tape of the June 16th memo meeting, which we did several times, we take our direction off the dais, we review the actions in our minutes from those videos, and that's what we came up with.
Maybe
So
the minutes need to be in more detail. I looked at the minutes. The minute says fence improvement. It says 400,000 for fence improvements. It didn't say 400,000 adding more fence for the opposite, the trail opposing the homes opposing the trail.
Right. So we watched the tape and we helped develop our minutes.
I think the minutes is official, right? So maybe next time, let's be more detailed in the minutes, so we don't have this confusion, because we are causing confusion to the residents too, because we were not very clear in the minutes. And then my question would be, when don't we usually put it out to bids and then we'll approve the contract? I understand there is time limit, but now it's November and we have meeting in January. So why do we have to pre-approve the contract before we see it? What's the rush here? Why are we doing it differently from other projects? Like everyone said, we haven't been rushing the project, but we haven't been delaying the project at all either. It's taking all the time as it needs. No one is rushing or delaying it. We are doing all the due diligence. And now I'm asking, we need to rush because of the bird nesting season. So why do we not have time for the contract to come back for approval like all the other projects?
It's just the time of the year and the environmental sensitivity of the projects with the nesting.
No, I mean, do we not have meetings in January?
Well, you do, yes, but
we have one at the
but
end.
it depends on what the weather may be like, and us and the contractor being able to mobilize and begin construction activity.
Right. We need to get this out to bid,
which is necessary before February 1.
So we just need it to be February 1. So in case it's not, we can always say in January meeting, we say, okay, there is no time. Let's pre-approve the contract. We can do that then, right? In case it really didn't come in before the January meeting.
I don't think we'd be taking advantage of what I consider a very favorable market for bids.
Oh, no, I mean, this is not delaying the timeline at all. I'm just asking, so because you are saying we need to sign it before February 1st, right? And then you are going to go out for bid, nothing will be changed. All I'm asking is, okay, let's put the contract on the January council meeting we have. And just in the worst case, it didn't make it, then we can then say, let's pre-approve it.
Yeah, but you just look at the calendar. It's not going to go out to bid until the beginning of December. It'll be out to bid for 3 to 4 weeks. Then you have the bid opening, you qualify the bids, you award the bid, and you're now in the middle of January. And we need to start construction by February 1st. That's the calendar.
Okay.
Plus, we have to account for people not working the holidays, so people working on their bids coming back.
So you are thinking even by the meeting, that meeting in January, you won't get it before that meeting?
Yeah. It'd be a shame to miss it.
you know, we have a motion and a second, so can we call for a vote now, please?
Can I go, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please. We have
Yeah,
more
Madam
items
City
on our
Clerk.
agenda
Hey,
and it's
Let
10:30.
me, our meeting in January is the 19th, right?
Yes.
So you need to have the contract well before January 1st. So most likely you'll have the bid before 19th, right?
Well,
It's
yeah,
very
but
unlikely, well, you won't
yeah,
even have it by the 19th, right?
Okay,
but even if we award it on the 19th, then the
That's not
contractor,
enough time.
then they have to get their insurance and bonds in place, and it'll be
Okay.
a week or two before it would be executed.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Chow,
Aye.
Councilmember Sinks,
Yes?
Councilmember Willie,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul,
Aye.
Mayor Sharp,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we've been going for almost 4 hours now. So why don't we take a break until 10:40? That's 7 minutes. Thank you.
All right.